Dude, yes. Oh, sweet. Oh, is that just because I'm only 10 minutes late for a change or um but yeah, I was hoping I would get my I was hoping I'd have enough time to get my uh use that goddamn styling wand that I got. It's vintage Conair Geometrics, Geometricks, or is it an X? I don't remember. Why don't I remember? It's right in my bathroom. I was just in my bathroom. But yeah, I was hoping I would have enough time to be able to do that. Oh hey, Catherine. But yeah, I was hoping I would have enough time after my shower and all that before the time I made for myself. Even though I apparently have a habit of doing what of resetting the time because I'm running behind for whatever other reason. But like by the time I realized how late it was, I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Like, it's one thing if I'm running late and reset the time, even as little as 5 minutes before I'm supposed to go live. But it's another thing, at least in my opinion. It's another thing if I am already running late, if I catch that I'm running late and am already like later than the log on time I gave myself and then reset the time. It's like, like that just strikes me as like trying to polish a turd. Like I already done fucked up, so like might as well like like what's it called? Like might as well just like admit that I, what's it called? That I said I'd do a thing at a certain time. I don't know. It seems slightly less irresponsible to reset the time if I realize I'm running late before, like at least a good, 10 minutes before I'm supposed to log on. Whereas it seems especially irresponsible if I do it after I'm already supposed to be logged on, right? So I've I also invited like I put the link for this into my I put the share link for this in one of the Facebook groups that kind of makes me be a jackass, maybe two of the Facebook groups that kind of encourage me to act like a bit of a jackass at times. So be prepared, my regular Bubble Revev Royev. There are certain adjectives that kind of escape me lately. Oh shit. The bubble Riveth. I think I was right the first time. I'll be real honest. I did partake in a THC gummy bear, and I'm doing absolutely for nice. Nice. Oh hi. Hello. Curious Cat. 1920. Yeah. Okay, so as I said in the description box on the thing for this week's Sunday stream, which I don't think I'm going, I don't know. It's like Sunday is like less scheduled. So yeah, if you missed the comment that I made in response to Lucifer, the Argyle dinosaur, this last Tuesday, I seriously fell asleep, like, before I was supposed to log on. And then, like, I woke up around midnight, said some nonsense in one of the Discord servers I'm on. apparently whatever I said got me uh, booted because ideological purity, which for some reason this person insists on calling purity culture, in spite of having been corrected many times by myself and at least one other person that that is not what the term purity culture refers to. Like, purity culture is not ideological purity. Purity culture is a distinctly evangelical Christian phenomenon. It's not necessarily reserved to your average American evangelicals. Like, evangelical is like an adjective that can be added to many Christian denominations. Like, when most people hear that term, they think Pentecostals. That's Pentecostals are one of those sects that is, by its very nature, evangelical, but not all evangelicals are Pentecostal. Like, um, what's his name? Mel Gibson is an evangelical Catholic, and his dad way more so. So yeah, like, my dad was kind of in that son of a bitch. Damn it. I mean, they are cheap ass earrings. Um, but yeah, so Sunday topics. Okay, so I'm gonna give myself until about half past before like going into like topical kind of babbling. I'm gonna go in order of what I put on the title. Um, eh. So yeah, I figured I'll be on for like, I don't know, like 20 minutes or so, just like have a nice little like chill preamble to the topical kind of things. So yeah, as far as falling asleep, Tuesday night stream. So yeah, Monday I had to get up early. I had an appointment um that like could not be scheduled any later than 10 p.m. unless I wanted to wait until July. And I don't hmm. I'm just so okay. So this had to be an in-clinic appointment that I did because okay, so last year as all hell was breaking loose, I had well, before Michigan went on lockdown, I got my balls. And that was on St. Parents Day, which I think is March 4th. Yes. So yeah, like all of my trans milestones hit some obscure um or like nerdy fandom-esque holiday. So, and I say this with good reason. Well, I mean, for starters, they literally do. Like, all of my major trans milestones. Okay, so okay, 5.5 millimeters, and okay, I'm pretty sure is one of these a 4? It's a 4.5, 0.5, 5.0. I need a 4. I need a regular 4. Right? Don't I need a regular 4 for this one? So this is something that I put down ages and ages ago, but and I'm actually like most of the way done with it, so I don't know why I put it down so quickly. So okay, da 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 da. Okay, yeah, I need a 4. So 4.5 is not going to cut it. Okay, so where is my 4.5? But so yeah, like I had to get up, butt crack a dawn for myself, which, for me, like way too early is like 9. Like ideally, I would have been up by 9 a.m., which I know, regular people are up and about and doing things and have like half a day accomplished by 9 a.m. Me, I'm usually been like me at 9 a.m. That usually means I've been asleep for 4 or 5 hours. Like, and so yeah, that's because that's just how I am. I've always been a bit of a night owl. Wait, son of a bitch, that's right. Okay, so I put those on. Okay, so that's one been done. So I'm going to assume that now I know some of this came unraveled, but okay, got a 4. Not the 4 hook that I wanted though, but so yeah, Monday I had to get up way early for me because my appointment was at 10 and I had an A ride. Actually, no, my appointment was at 10:30. But like I said, ideally to have all of my shit together. So like, breakfast, something that passes for cleaning myself so that the doctor's not subjected to my depression funk and all of that. So ideally I would have been up by 9, but I got up at like almost quarter to 10 if I recall correctly. So yeah, like that meant like I got to put on pajama pants and find a t-shirt and slip into some kind of shoe. I think I actually went out to that appointment in my slippers from the, I because I just that's like how that is how functional I am at that time of the day, right? But then yeah, after I got my act together and got down to the A ride car service, which is like a disability door to door car service that is a a part of the AATA, which is like the local transit center, Ann Arbor. Technically now it's A3TA, so Ann Arbor Area Transit Authority. But yeah, I got up at 9:35, 9:40, threw on what passed for clothes. Took my meds because Adderall being a stimulant, and I do usually take that with breakfast. And I figured, well, that might not be great to take right now, like that far off schedule. But worst case scenario, I'm no worse off than I usually am at 9 than I usually am at like 10:15 in the AM. Best case scenario, I'm at least kind of functional at the doctor's office. So yeah, I got my nuts last year just before all hell broke loose. St. Parents Day, March 4th. Yeah, March 4th. Or was it March 5th? It was St. Parents Day. I remember that. Like that's how I remembered it. Which is a Cornish thing, okay? Like that's a Cornish thing. It's like my grandfather, like my maternal grandfather's from Cornwall. So yeah, that was a thing, and that's like how I remembered like what day that was. I got that just before all hell broke loose, and then I had scheduled a nipular revision, which is just like an outpatient procedure that they do, but it had to be rescheduled because that was originally scheduled for. Oh my gosh, that was originally scheduled for 4/20. So yeah, like that was originally scheduled for April 20th, but then all shit came down raining upon us, and so I had to reschedule. And because everything was still very uncertain at that time last year, it was just like cancel and reschedule when things look like they might be headed in the direction of normal-ish again. So yeah, so because it had been so long since my last pre-op eval for that, I had to go in again. So this had to be another this had to be another in-clinic appointment. Like they couldn't do it over Zoom because of, like Medicare, right? So yeah, like that's why I fell asleep on Tuesday before logging into my shift on WFKU because getting up at 9:35 in the AM just threw off my whole week. It threw off my whole week. Like it wasn't until like Friday where I didn't wake up oddly more tired than when I went to bed. And so yeah, like it wasn't until Friday that like my sleep schedule got back to somewhat normal-ish. In fact, like shit, I think Wednesday night I slept like 12 hours because shit just got that goofy. But so yeah, now into the little topical little experiment with trying to do something topical, even if only of any topical relevance to myself, right? So yeah, first thing I've got down recommended for this week is let me catch up on the chat real quick. Get your stash back up. Wait, whose stash? Oh, never mind. Catherine's stash. Supplier. Okay, Lucifer's got their fingers crossed for Catherine. I might check out the Hey Babe podcast. I'm not sure. Okay. Oh, hey, yeah. Okay, Catherine, yeah. Thanks for double checking St. Kieran's Day. Okay, yeah. Chest pain. Okay, we've got some. Okay. Gotta get that beauty sleep. I know, right? Wait, where's this guy? I want to make it to a stream. Wait, what? Where's this guy at? I want to make it to a stream. I'm not sure. Wait, what? What is meant by that? I don't understand. Wait, is this thing giving me top chat and it skipped over somebody? Okay, or maybe not. I don't know. Fuck if I know. Fuck if I know. So yeah, okay. So this I picked. So yeah, industrial rap music. I got that idea as something that I might want to kind of chat about a little bit because well, Angela Benedict. I almost called her Angelica for a second, which like Angelica is the name of okay, so my first novel, his grandmother was a sideshow performer in like 1920s stuff, because she had albinism. So yeah, like that's her. Well, technically it's her stage name, but since name changes were a lot more relaxed back then, at some point, I don't know. I have a mostly started novella about her just because I love her as a character. I do, but I'm not quite sure where to go with the rest of her story. But yeah, so yeah, it's Angela Benedict. Angelica Perry is my character. See, this is what getting me up at 9:30 does. It throws me off for like at least a week. I'm going to be brain farting on friends' names for the rest of my. I do that sometimes anyway. So yeah, Angela, she and I are friends, like real friends. I mean, haven't met like in person just yet, but that does not invalidate friendship. So then what happens? Wait. Hold on. I'm looking at this. So chain 2 turn half double in each of next 3. Son of a bit. Okay, so wait. Half double in each of next 3. Did I miss something here? Son of a bitch. Okay. Do I know what the hell I'm doing with this? I don't know. Okay, so wait. Hold on. I got very confused by my pattern for a minute. Okay, smoke enlarge from the chain 2, half double in the next chain space. Oh wait, it says repeat row 2. So chain 1, turn, slip stitch into each. Okay, so that's this. Okay, so I've done that one. Slip across. So, okay, so wait, row 3. Total 12. Okay. Okay, this thing is goofy. Okay, chain 1, turn, single in for wait. Okay, look here, hook. Okay, single in first stitch, skip 2, double in next, did that. Chain 3. Hold on. Okay. Okay, double, chain 3. Okay. Chain 3. Work 3 double around stem of double just made. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 3. Skip 2, single in. Wait. God, I really borked something up here, didn't I? Okay. Oh, okay, that's what I did wrong just now. Okay. This is what I get for putting this one down for so long. I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Okay, and it is facing the right way. And okay, so here's where it came unraveled that bit. And so single in there. And skip 2, single, repeat from blank across. Okay. So yeah, So Angela brought up something about how while many things can be infused into goth music, some things just don't necessarily work. Um, and that while yes, but my comment to that, she uses rap as an example of something that wouldn't necessarily play nice with goth, and I that while rap can fuse very well with heavy metal or industrial music, I it wouldn't necessarily work with gothic rock or dark wave or um, dark cabaret. Um, you know, uh, the more like avant-garde kind of post-punk. God, I hate that term. I hate it. But like stuff like Sex Gang, Children, Virgin Prunes, it wouldn't really work. Now, my comment to that effect was that because of the fact that as club scenes, goth and industrial have always cohabitated like very easily, like in the club scene. Some may say that, oh well, that was just like some kind of like out of necessity, and that's why. But at the same time, you see a lot of early goth musicians participating in what would become known as industrial music. So, no, like it's as a club scene, it's the same subculture as a club scene. On the other hand, I pointed out in my comment that um, that where that where rap fits in very well with with industrial music, with a lot of heavy metal bands. Like I'm sorry, like that Anthrax and Public Enemy collaboration is literally why Rage Against the Machine had a job, right? Or at least that's why they turned out to be the band that they did turn out into, right? So and I'm sure Tom Morello would be proud. And I kind of have this working theory that Beastie Boys are a punk band that raps. I'll get to that. So yeah, like it's technically true when people point out that the earliest days of the goth music subculture, that yes, it was part of the post punk movement. Oh my god. Like, see, like that's what post-punk is. It's not a genre. Like people try and call it a genre, but it doesn't work that way because like it just like too many bands that are considered post-punk, just like they're so goddamn different from each other. And plus, like what sparked the post-punk movement was specifically it was specifically a reactionary. It was specifically a reaction to the immense and very heavy-handed commercialization of punk. Like that's what post-punk is. It's a reaction against it's reactionary punk. It's reactionary punk. And some of the subcultures that spawned off of the post-punk movement ended up doing very well politically. You got hardcore punk, which is honestly like that's where that's kind of like where the death rock like the closest argument that death rock is a separate genre from gothic rock is based on local culture, because death rock was the term used mostly in Los Angeles, but kind of throughout the U.S. Southwest at the time, and it was specifically like kind of it was specifically an offshoot of hardcore punk. It was specifically an offshoot of LA hardcore that was really into that was like absolutely fascinated with like the morbid aspects of life. And but then you've got anything that Roz Williams shook his stick at, which is very Dada and surrealism. And in that, like, and he was absolutely aware that Dada and surrealists were closely aligned with socialism and communism in the 1910s and 20s in Europe. Like, he was absolutely aware of this. So like the whole notion of Roz being, I mean, he was no more racist than your average person at that time. He spoke out very harshly against the racism deeply embedded in Southern Baptist denomination that he grew up in. But like the argument that his fascination with Nazi imagery reflected some kind of ideology that he held that favored all that, it's like, it's a piss poor argument, because as I've said in other videos, Roz Williams was first and foremost a surrealist, and like premature ejaculation, that was his industrial noise project, right? Like, I mean, you just can't argue against that, right? Like, that was just straight up Dada. And Dada, these were like anti-art, like revolutionaries who were doing like just borderline nonsense art to kind of thumb their noses at the bourgeoisie. Like you cannot separate political leanings from Dada and surrealism, especially. Like, you cannot do that. It was his industrial noise project. He called it premature ejaculation, and it was as much noise music as it was performance art. Oh, ye gods. I wish, oh my gosh, I've seen some old like VHS video of some of those performances. They're very few and far between. Like anything that survives anyway. But yeah, like I just, but yeah. So yeah, like LA Death Rock, the LA Death Rock scene, that splintered off from, the hardcore punk scene, which was very much had ties to anarcho-socialism, anarcho-communism, anarcho-syndicalism. Yes, I'm well aware that that Darby Crash would like very, very he was kind of trolling people when he said in interviews a couple times, which is depicted in the Germs movie, which a lot of people have a lot of problems with, but then again, like, the film is based on Lexicon Devil, which my friend Don co-wrote with I forget the other person who co-wrote that, but it was like, like the book was like an oral history of the band The Germs, and with a fairly solid focus on Darby Crash. So and Don was their most consistent drummer. I'll put it that way. And yeah, like, long before the film came out, he told me like the weekend I met him and accidentally ended up hanging out with him like for most of the following week. But yeah, the weekend I met him, that is a story in and of itself, and I don't even remember half of it. That's how drunk I was. But but yeah, he told me like first time I met him that the Germs was either the best or worst band he'd ever been in. So that line in the film, which, like I said, was produced and released like some years after I met Don. That is basically like Don's straight up. Oh my God, the kid who played Don in that movie just got it so dead on. You know this kid was like very method and followed Don around for like several weeks to like get into character. Oh my God, that was, like I said, it was absolutely accurate. It was absolutely accurate depiction of a lot of the band members. But like what but yeah, like when Darby Crash would say that, like the band's politics were fascist, he was trolling. Like he was really big into Nietzsche, but also into Dada and surrealism. So, he's just he's like doing the most, like he's saying the most bonkers shit because it'll get a rise out of people. But yeah, where was I going? Right, industrial music and rapping. So, okay. So yeah, and then like the collection of post-punk subcultures that came out of England at around the same time, death rock was splintering off, even if only just barely sometimes, from hardcore punk. Which again, hardcore punk, very political. Like you had like anarchists. You had the anarcho communes. Like there was a whole fucking apartment block, which unfortunately now like no longer is the world-renowned squat that it was in the 80s, which offends me on a deep personal level. It's like how the Chelsea Hotel in New York is now like an expensive, like 4.5-star place, with these like boutique, designed rooms. And I'm like, no, the Chelsea Hotel is supposed to be a goddamn SRO hovel. That is what made it famous. The fact that they got it all shiny is an insult to everybody who lived there for however long. Like all the brilliant artists who lived there. Like that is an insult to, what it once was. But that's another story for another. Like that's okay. That's basically the story I was getting at with that. But where was I going? Right, up my ass and around the corner. So yeah, like post-punk that splintered off. And it was very political. It was very political. It had a political stance, and that was that, no, you're not going to fucking commercialize. You're not going to fucking commercialize our emotions that are like driving us away from mainstream society. You're not going to commercialize what we stand for. And like the same thing came up with Australia and swamp punk and swampies, which is what it was called before it eventually merged with the Australian goth scene, which was kind of an import from the UK later in the 80s, and at some point like very late 80s or very early 90s, swampy and Australian goths just kind of merged. So I wrote an article on that on goth.wikia, or I think it's .fandom now, but whatever. Like just search goth wikia swampy. I wrote most of that article. I think a couple people have gone in there and made cockamamie edits that make no sense. I mean, yeah, I guess somebody on some forum or another was trying to like make like swamp goth a thing, when I'm like, it kind of already, like, I don't know. I need to go back and check that article and see like what needs to be like undone and redone. But yeah, like, and I source every statement I make in that. And I wrote that, like, I knew about Swampies because one of my best friends for the longest time was from Brisbane, Australia, but they're now an expat living in Ireland. Where was I going? Right. Industrial and rap. So okay. I know I've said on previous Sunday streams that at least as far as the club scene goes, when hip hop was coming up as a genre, very early in its days. So we're talking like 1979 through like 81. So like the earliest days of hip hop as a distinct music genre that was forming its own subculture, which it does pay pay mad respect to a lot of stuff that 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 what that influenced it, like um 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 oh yeah, like ska MCs and and uh and spoken word poets like Gil Scott Heron and Nina Simone. uh but but yeah, like, so when rap first started like coming into its own as a genre, they wouldn't play it at the black clubs in, like the New York nightclub scene. They would not play it at the black clubs. The black clubs preferred to play disco, funk, soul, but they did not, like, they would refuse to play hip hop. But the clubs in New York that did play a hip hop were the punk clubs. So CBGB, the Last Days of Max's Kansas City. Those are the big ones that everybody knows about. Uh, so yeah, like, that is a reason that rap and punk go really well together. Rap also goes really well with metal, and metal heavy metal music does have some stylistic origins in punk. In fact, the argument can be made very easily that Guns N' Roses is either a punk band or a heavy metal band. Like, we're talking like 80s style heavy metal, which was very influenced by British new wave metal, or new British metal, whatever. It's a very Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. I almost said Iron Monkey for some reason, but there should be a band called Iron Monkey. There should be a band called Iron Monkey. I don't know why. It needs to happen. I don't know what they'd play, but there needs to be a band called Iron Monkey. Why? Because I said so. Excuse me. I need to get something to drink in a minute. Megan Raquel says, thought Guns N' Roses was like glam rock. Okay, so like there's also like two schools of glam rock so like you've got your art rock romantic glam. So we're talking like David Bowie, Roxy Music, Cockney Rebel. I'd honestly say like more Bebop Deluxe albums are in this category as opposed to the other side of glam rock. So like the other side of glam rock was more like it definitely had a heavier hand in the formation of punk from the pub rock scene. So you've got pub glam, or that's what I call it when, I've got my bizarre ass sorting system in my music archive, which I really need to download more from my OneDrive so yeah, you've also got your pub glam where you've got Ambrose Slade, later known as simply Slade, Slade. You've got the Sweet. You've got the Glitter Band, both with and without Gary Glitter. Who, fun fact, Gary Glitter had been banned. Like, I think he's in legit jail now, but I forget where he's been finally jailed. But he was barred from entering Cambodia because their prime minister or somebody with their official consulate, like, literally said that he would be that letting Gary Glitter into Cambodia would be a disgrace to the national image of Cambodia. Like, they're okay with having Pol Pot on their conscience, but at the same time, like, Pol Pot, like, you can't deny that he is part of like Cambodia's image globally, but at the same time, it's like, like, he came from Cambodia. They can deal with their own, right? But they don't want to be known for letting in one of the world's most infamous kitty diddlers, right? Like this, they're just like, no, we can handle Pol Pot on our national image because at least he was actually Cambodian, but letting this asshole in, Oh no, nope, 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 nope. Send him back. Send him somewhere else, not Cambodia. Right? So like Gary Glitter was a threat to the national image of Cambodia. Like this is how much people don't like those kinds of people, right? But yeah, like so yeah, like wow, now we're diddling. Um you know, you can't really. I mean, I guess I could have just said CP because that seems to be the code that YouTubers have picked up for it. But yeah, yeah, like yeah, that is why Gary Glitter got banned from Cambodia. Like upon arrival, like they would not let him out of the airport. You know, like they saw his passport and they were just like, I mean, okay, like it had his legal name on there, but everybody knows him as Gary Glitter, right? And they're just like, nope, 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 nope. You're him, nope, out, out, nope, nope. We're gonna send you somewhere else, not Cambodia. You would be a stain on the national image were we to let you into Cambodia. Glorious nation of Cambodia. No holiday in Cambodia for Gary Glitter. No way. So yeah, in New York, the oh poor thing. Right, right. Right? Like let's have a moment where we feel really bad. So yeah, like there's pub glam and then there's like art glam. Okay, so like I can see the argument that Guns N' Roses had a heavy influence from pub glam. Wait, is Marlon asking, "Are you Jewish?" Me? No. I'm a pagan. Religiously, ethnically, I am Cornish, Altach, and Cockney. I don't know. Like there's this person, Marlon Weingust. Um, like okay, you do you, boo. So where was I going? Like I can see the argument that Guns N' Roses had a heavy influence from pub glam. In fact, like maybe a third of the Spaghetti Incident album, which is a covers record. So like I'm not a sister, but okay. Uh like uh I am an uncle though. But where was I going with this? Right. So but yeah, like I can but yeah, like yeah, the Spaghetti Incident album had a number of the pub glam sort of covers. Uh I've got that. I've got that. Do I want to get up and I got to get up and get a drink of water anyway. Let me see, you get into the zone where you're doing something with a thing, and it's a thing that's been like that confounded you for a good few minutes before you finally got back on that train. And so yeah, let me finish this up. Yeah, I don't know. Do I want to go get my? You know what? I've got. Where did my tablet go? It went under my skirt, didn't it? Oh no, here it is. Okay, so let me see. But yeah, like Guns N' Roses, especially Axl, like they definitely had some influence from like the pub glam, but musically um they share a lot more in common with Judas Priest than they do with pub glam, like Sweet and Slade. Okay, let me see. Guns and Roses Spaghetti Incident. Okay. But yeah, like I can very easily make an argument that Guns N' Roses were a punk band as well. And so yeah, like there's a lot of there's a lot of early there's a lot of bands from like the late 70s, especially like the New York, New Jersey area, like Plasmatics with with and without Wendy O. Williams. um, on their on their lineup. Rosemary's Babies. You can easily make the argument that these are either punk bands or metal bands. So that's kind of where Guns N' Roses was at. Wait, look for what the hell? Why is my tablet on crack? I swear to God. Okay. Oh, here we go. Here's a song list. Wait, no. What the hell? Okay. I mean, it is an original Nook tablet, so like it's not even like one of the later Samsung Nook tablets. Okay, let's see. Since I don't have you, that was I think that was an Isley Brothers. He was Axl was briefly married to Aaron Isley. It was annulled after like a week, I think. Okay, New Rose, that's a New York Dolls song. And New York Dolls, you can argue that they're, like pub glam, which really easily you can really see the influence that had on punk bands, especially like the early punk bands from like the early punk bands that were consistently referred to as punk in the late 70s. Like you can see that like huge influence New York Dolls had, and so yeah, like you can easily make the argument that New York Dolls was either like pub glam, which is what they were. I mean, they were referred to as glam rock in like 1973 when their first album came out. But again, like, it was more Slade, more Slade, more Sweet, less David Bowie. And of course, like Mick, then you've got Mark Bolan, where like T-Rex could be easily either, like kind of the art rock glam just because he and romantic pagan imagery and fantasy novels. So like he did a bunch of songs that are very clearly inspired by fantasy novels and mythology, but he also did a bunch of songs that were just bang it on, get it on, bang a gong. Like that is a goofy ass song. That is a goofy pub glam song. Let's see, Down on the Farm. I forget who. Oh my, was that the Adolescents? No, probably not. Human Being. Oh shit, Human Being. Okay, Ain't Fun. Yeah, that was Dead Boys. Buick McCain. Yep, that was a T-Rex one. Hair of the Dog was Nazareth, and Nazareth is another one of those bands where, well, actually, like Nazareth is one of those bands where came about early enough that you could see how they kind of influenced punk, but like you can also see very much how they influenced metal. And at the time, because Nazareth was early 70s, was kind of like their big period as a band. A lot of they were kind of like in this proto metal sort of genre as well, which early on, like Black Sabbath was included in this. It was called doom rock. It was called doom rock or doom and gloom in the late 60s, early 70s. And that doom and gloom had a massive influence on gothic rock. That is going to be another topic, but not for tonight. So I'm going to put that down like right here for doom and gloom to gothic rock. Okay, so yeah, but yeah, oh wait, Black Leather. Shit. I know, wait, no. No, that's not the same, Black Leather that, Grace Jones did. It would not surprise me if Axl was also a fan of that one. Okay, Can't Put Your Arm Around a Memory. That's Johnny Thunders. Down. There's a goddamn. But yeah, Raw Power from the Stooges. So yeah, like I can easily make the argument that Guns N' Roses was either like like a second wave heavy metal band, alongside like Judas Priest and all that, or a punk band. like that is one of those. They're one of those bands that I can easily argue is either one or the other, and the rationale I'll be using would be equally correct for either of those, right? So then where was I going with this? Right. So yeah, punk. Now punk and hip hop got along very well in the New York club scene in the early 80s. So like, 78, 8 through 82, 83 or something like that. So, now you get to industrial music, which was coming about at around the same time. It was part of the whole thing. Like some of the earliest PE recordings by Roz Williams and at the time Ron Athey. Those go back to like 1980, 81. I know the earliest PE recordings that have been confirmed actually predate Christian death. So where was okay, 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, like the earliest PE recordings predate Christian Death's first album by a few months, like barely a few months. So yeah, and industrial was also just like no, Throbbing Gristle was kind of influential on PE. Never mind. So yeah, like Genesis Peorage started doing Throbbing Gristle around like 78, 79. So yeah, like, and industrial music is very political. It's a very political music. Like, oh my God, like KMFDM, just like they're one of the KMFDM is another one of those bands where like if some politician started whining about like or even just some goober like was the case with Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine, right? I think it was just like some random goober on Twitter, right? If somebody went ranting about like how the members of KMFDM should just stick to the music and stop getting, stop like putting your 2 cents in and all this political garbage, I'm like, the members of KMFDM would be like, what the fuck band have you been listening to since like 1984, right? Like KMFDM, very political, right? Very political band. And you can easily argue that a lot of their that like while they were very much in the industrial genre, they had a huge influence on what would become known as industrial metal, which later gave us Nine Inch Nails, which who eventually like foisted Marilyn Manson on the world. And I'm like, I've got mixed feelings about industrial metal as a scene. Gosh, but that's like, I don't know. I don't have my thoughts cohesive enough about that to add that to the possible topic list here, but whatever. So industrial music, very political. Heavy metal, very political. Like what the hell do you think like Anthrax and Public Enemy were doing collaborating? Oh yeah. Lucifer's right. Like, I mean, you can't hate on Nine Inch Nails. Trent Reznor is one of those like maverick genius kind of musicians that you gotta kind of respect what he's doing, but at the same time, it's like, you associated with some sketchy characters, Trent. I think he's also originally from Ohio too, and like us weirdos from Ohio gotta stick together. Except for that weirdo from Ohio named Brian Warner, who can go intercourse himself, right? Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross freaking did the damn thing with that Social Network soundtrack. Okay, I'll have to check out that soundtrack. But yeah, so like, and hip hop, like proto hip hop, like some of the most influential musicians on what became hip hop. We've got I just said that. Gil Scott-Heron, Last Poets. Oh my gosh. If you like punk music and you like especially some early hip hop and old school punk, check out goddamn Last Poets. blew my goddamn mind first I heard them. Oh gosh. Gil Scott-Heron, you may not remember the name, but you will remember because it's been sampled to hell by a lot of people. The revolution will not be televised, and unfortunately that open line is like all I've really committed to memory. But yeah, Nina Simone, goddamn political as all hell she was. Like, oh my gosh, she really worked the jazz and blues to its greatest advantage. And there's a video I've seen on YouTube. This guy who talks about music history a lot, and he's done a thorough rundown that I should probably share with everybody about how Nina Simone was hip hop's greatest secret weapon, like in influence, right? So, like, there's a reason that that hip hop blends in really well with heavy metal, punk, and industrial music, because like it's very overt in its politics. Like when hip hop can be political, like we're talking like Public Enemy and some Beastie Boys stuff, even, right? Like, God. The exact lyrics are not coming to me right now, but Sabotage by Beastie Boys. And again, like, I can easily make an argument that Beastie Boys are a punk band that that integrated rapping, and they did it wonderfully. But yeah, like, that's the reason that so goth as a description for a number of subgenres and arguably microgenres, because, like, yes, the argument that to really be taken seriously as a member of the goth subculture, and I'm old as shit, so I will use goth and gothic interchangeably if you want to come for me over that. I that's more your problem than mine. But where was I going? Right. Oh yeah, fight for your right. That is that's one of those sneaky little ones where, like, they put, like, to party. Yeah, like Beastie Boys, like, but still, like that's one of those things, like, oh shit, where was I going? Like, oh, right, Twisted Sisters album, Burn in Hell, like Twisted Sisters Burn in Hell is a covert Christian rock song. People have like, described this in great detail. But yeah, like Twisted Sisters Burn in Hell is a covert Christian rock song. In that same way, Beastie Boys Fight for Your Right to Party is covertly political. They do it in a goofy way that only the Beastie Boys could get away with, but it's like it sounds just apolitical enough to kind of sneak its message into your head, much like Twisted Sister with Burn in Hell, right? So yeah, where was I going with this? Right. So yeah, like the genres of goth music, indisputably, would be gothic rock, under which I am including death rock, because, like, there is no meaningful difference between the two. There's no meaningful difference between the two terms, other than very slight differences between the local origin cultures. And the reason I say slight differences is because the localized music scene that birthed both gothic rock in the UK and death rock in the Los Angeles, Southern California, and a bit further out across the Southwest. So, like, so like it came from very it came from very easily alignable political origins, like sociopolitical origins. Like it came from basically like the same concept of like the same local branches of punk. Like anarcho punk in the UK was a massive influence on early British Gothic rock. Like the members of like the original lineup of Rubella Ballet, their literal mother was in an anarcho punk band. Vice versa. Oh my god. That woman was older than me when she formed Poison Girls. And I'm old as shit, right? So that woman was older than me when she formed an anarcho punk band. And like and you cannot like listen closely to the lyrics, especially like the early I mean, like the reformed Rubella Ballet, which has like only like half the original members, but like it's the two members that weren't Vice Subversa's kids. But yeah, like you listen closely to the lyrics of Rubella Ballet's music. They are very much believers in their mother's anarcho-communist ideals, right? So like to say that goth isn't political is to demonstrate a gross misunderstanding of the subculture and its origins. So like yeah, like when I got pissed off a couple of years ago because like there are certain people pitching these luxury lifestyle brands for the real discerning, sophisticated goths. When like I'm sorry, that goddamn Haunt furniture, it just looks so cheap and kitschy and chintzy to me, right? Like, I mean, I would rather like dumpster dive antiques and go thrifting for like amazing finds than do any of that shit. And like I said, like when you're pitching certain brands like that, it demonstrates a gross misunderstanding of the subculture's origins. So yeah, you might be saying, so okay, then why won't rap go well with gothic rock or like even dark wave, since dark wave is very synth based? So like these are like the subgenres that your average person about my age, like give or take a decade of my age. So like let's say hypothetically I'm 42. So people in their like in their 30s, 40s, early 50s, like us longtime goth lifers, we will say these like this number of microgenres are indisputably goth music. So you've got gothic rock, which, like I said, I'm including dark wave, and I'm including, or not dark wave, I'm including death rock under the definition of gothic rock, because like I said, there is no meaningful difference, at least like in terms of genre theory and cultural origins. There is no meaningful difference between death rock and gothic rock, right? There's no meaningful difference. So people who think there is, I'm like no, like that's just what you call gothic rock, where it's clear, like bands like Bloody Dead and Sexy, where it's clear that they really love Christian Death's first album, Only Theater of Pain. It's clear that they really love Roz Williams' music, right? Like that is the only meaningful distinction that anybody can make, right? And it's not even a meaningful distinction. Like it's a stylistic one, right? It like that does not override genre theory. Okay, so gothic rock, which I'm also including LA death rock, and a lot of the now retroactively referred to as post-punk musicians that you'll see on the gothic rock volumes 1, 2, and 3. These were compilations put together by Mick Mercer that were released under Jungle Records in the UK, and then Cleopatra Records in the US got distro and relabeling rights for US, for the US market. I think those were released 96, 97, and 98 respectively. So like Echo and the Bunnymen, what's another one I see on there a lot? Gene Loves Jezebel, Love and Rockets, right? So, like some of these like let's say light goth, right? Let's say light goth, okay? So gothic rock, which is a much broader genre than a lot of people give it credit for, because again, like applying genre theory, I can make no meaningful difference between Echo and the Bunnymen and Sisters of Mercy or Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry, right? Other than the fact that Sisters and Lorries, people will indisputably say, oh yeah, that's gothic rock. Echo and the Bunnymen, you'll get dipshits on Reddit going, oh, well, Echo and the Bunnymen's not gothic rock because it doesn't sound like... I'm like, no, shut your gob. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, you're trying... Like, you think you're applying genre theory, but you're not, okay? like, so goddamn Dunning-Kruger goth, right? Like, or dooming... I don't know. I had a thought, and my thought went fluttering off in that general direction. I don't know where it's at. It's probably going to get hit by a bus. Okay, so yeah, gothic rock, dark wave, dark cabaret. I mean, you cannot make the argument that Christian Death's first 3 albums are gothic and then say dark cabaret is not a goth genre. Because, albums 2 and 3, especially number 3 being Ashes, that is indisputably a dark cabaret album by current standards. And yet I will see people argue that, oh no, this is goth. This isn't, like, dark cabaret is not goth, but this is goth. Like, then you admit that you were just applying these labels just like nonsensically. Like, it just, you're just going off feels, right? And therein you've got and I would say like a lot of, again, it's very difficult. A lot of the early British bands, it's very difficult to give some clear-cut distinctions with some of them, like Sex Gang Children. You can argue that a significant amount of their music is either gothic rock or dark cabaret, right? Like Virgin Prunes. Gavin Friday still describes Virgin Prunes as avant-garde punk, and he's not wrong. Like, they did maybe 2 songs that can be described as like a prototype for dark wave, right? But the rest of their stuff, it's bonkers avant-garde stuff that I like to do, right? It is like the bonkers avant-garde music that I make, and like Diamanda Galas, a lot of old school lifers like myself, like people about my age, give or take, between 5 and 10 in, a lot of us old school lifers are like no, like Diamanda Galas, she's one of us. Fad Gadget, he's one of us. So yeah, like and like a smattering of avant-garde punk, right? Like there was this really avant-garde punks, right? So like this is indisputably goth music to most people, including a lot of dipshits on Reddit, right? Because yeah, like when you get to some of the older people like myself, they start admitting that, like, they will eventually admit, if you poke them enough, they will eventually admit that, like, well, okay, yeah, like this is goth, but because it's always been goth. So I'm like, okay, then you admit that goth music is a broader category than just gothic rock and dark wave, like most of the dipshits on Reddit insist on, right? But again, like this is just like me bitching about people right now. So what stands out about the primary genres of goth music? What stands out about these is it's again, I go back to gothic rock, including LA death rock, and a lot of the avant-garde, like the avant-garde dark, punk that was coming out of the UK as well. Like Fad Gadget, Diamanda Galas was out of Southern California. Diamanda Galas is originally from the San Diego area. Oh my gosh, the Diamanda Galas, like all of the urban legends about Diamanda Galas that many of us in the 1990s believed because the internet was still like very, very bare bones at the time. So a lot of us really believed so many urban legends about Diamanda Galas. That's going to be a video in and of itself. Actually, like I'm going to put that down as like something that I'm just going to like script out. Urban legends script. Okay. I just wanted to get the idea down before it frolics off away from me. Granted, this is one of those ideas that I've, that comes to me all the time. I just have yet to put it to good use, right? But yeah, writing it down, I might get off my ass and actually script that. Okay, so yeah, like, one of the most defining points of, Gothic rock, dark wave, dark cabaret, dark avant-garde, or we can say avant-goth. I say it all the time. I've seen a few people on Instagram like, like tagging, like under like the Roz Williams tag. I'll see a lot of people like refer to Roz Williams at, like entire body of music as avant-goth. And I'm like, it works, right? So like, like I said, Gothic rock, dark wave, dark cabaret, avant-goth, or dark avant-garde. One of the main, like, what brings these four primary Gothic music genres together is atmosphere. So, and this is something that that Ligeia Resurrected, Adrienne, she and I, like, we're not as close as I'd like to be, right? But we talk a lot. Well, relative to a lot of other people I talked to online lately, especially this last year. Like, the isolation has gotten me all weird. I feel dehumanized to an extent. And so when I feel like that, I feel like avoiding people. So yeah, but yeah, where was I going with this? Right. But yeah, like, Adrienne and I have talked a lot about how Gothic literature actually is a major influence on a lot of the earliest musicians. Like, even like when you get to like proto-goth, you know what? I'm gonna include dark neofolk, because you really cannot deny the influence of Leonard Cohen, Nico, and of course, like, there were definitely a number of musicians who are, from early on. I'm talking Death in June. I'm sorry, Douglas P. is indeed, is indeed the bad. He's one of those people who grew into it, like, regarding, like, like what I brought up about Roz Williams earlier, right? So he didn't grow out of it, he grew into it. I've had long talks with people who actually know the guy. So yeah, like, same with Boyd Rice. Boyd Rice definitely grew into it. But yeah, like, that's, again, like, I see dark neofolk. It's also been like influential on industrial and post-industrial, but it's another one of those genres that genre like kind of bridges between like its influence on industrial music and the Rivethead subculture, and goth music and the Gothic subculture. So yeah, like, neofolk, like I say, it's like kind of one of those like genres that was easily influential on both, but for different reasons. Okay, so yeah, like, Adrienne and I, oh my gosh, one of these days I'm thinking maybe before I take a bicycle tour of Wales, I'm gonna go visit Adrienne out in Washington State, and we're gonna do a live absinthe stream, and just like progressively get a bit drunker and talk about the the prehistory of the goth subculture, right? But but yeah, like when you really get into it, like when you like unearth like some of the interviews and like if you really examine a lot of the lyrics for goth music, especially like the earliest of said, so like we're talking like 1979 through 1983, right? Just like cutoff point being like just as the lead sound was coming into cohesion around like 82, 83 with March Violets, Sisters of Mercy, and Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry. Like that's the holy trinity of the Leeds bands that have given that archetypal, definitive gothic rock sound. Um, that's another story for another time, though. So where was I going? Right. So the goth genres are a lot more atmospheric. That's not to say that a lot of these bands aren't political. That's not to say they're apolitical. But it another major influence on early goth music was philosophers, and like I said, like the Dada and Surrealist movements of the 1910s through early 30s. So you've got a lot of like when it's political, like when the early bands get political, they they address a more human chord to it, right? So like when Rubella Ballet is singing about how they believe every second counts, like this is just like straight up existentialism in a 3-minute song. This is straight up existentialism in a minor chord pop punk anthem. And existentialism, again, massive influence on the New Left and early 20th century socialist movements, huge influence on Dada and Surrealists. So again, so yeah, you get, it's a bit more introverted, right? So like where goth is, like where industrial, punk, heavy metal are very kind of like extroverted genres, these are genres that hope to speak to people on a broad community level, right? Like these are genres that are defined, and again, like with hip hop, especially like old school early hip hop, especially when it gets political, right? Like these are genres, hip hop, metal, industrial music, punk, they wish to speak to a broad, like they wish to speak to you on like a broad community level. They wish to speak to you, like when they get political, they want to speak about society's ills, right? When they want to get to more personal issues, they want to do it in a way that is most relatable, right? If they want to touch on something atmospheric, and I'm especially looking at heavy metal here because like the influence that Led Zeppelin had on heavy metal cannot be denied, okay? And half of Led Zeppelin's music is like Tolkien fanfic songs, right? So when heavy metal gets atmospheric, it's usually like in a broad cultural sense, right? It's in a sense that likes to go like very literary, right? It likes to get into literature that speaks on like a more that can be seen as a little bit less personal, though there are very like like Tolkien can get into some very like individual kind of ideas where he's like telling especially the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, like through Frodo and Bilbo respectively, like he can get into some very like like on an individual level, but again, like this speaks like especially like the Lord of the Rings, like the Fellowship of the Ring, it's the fellowship, right? So yeah, that is where like I said, and that is how like hip hop can easily find its way to blend with industrial music, to blend in with heavy metal music, to blend in with punk music, as in Beastie Boys and whatever you'd call that collaboration between Public Enemy and Anthrax, right? Like Anthrax is another one of those bands. I can argue very easily that they're either like early thrash metal or they're like or they're like kind of like bridging that gap between hardcore punk and skater punk, right? Like this is Anthrax are just one of those bands, right? They're one of those bands that's like just old enough you can call it, like a couple different genres, that has definitely been influential on a lot, right? So, but when you get to goth music, like when you get to goth, like especially a lot of us lifers, um, 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 um. Now, I'm usually when I take those Myers-Briggs test, I I come up as a bit more extroverted than a lot of my friends do, but at the same time, um, 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 at the same time, I I think it's one of those cases where I'm kind of just barely more extroverted. I Yeah, and this is where like I kind of have some issues with like Myers-Briggs stuff. It's like I can see what people are saying when they say that it's horoscopes for nerds, right? Yeah, like it's horoscopes for atheists, right? Because yeah, like I can see where I kind of understand like the reasoning they took for like when I do those tests for like why they put me more extroverted than introverted, but I think I'm a bit less so than those things give me credit for, because those tests are very broad, like they're very broad, and in part because of ADHD, in part because I recognize that these are just very broad tests. I find myself like with a bunch of those questions, like, what the fuck? Like, does this mean like in general, or does this mean like right now? Is this like trying to account for my entire life experience? What is this trying to account for here? Right? So like I so like a lot of times I'll just end up picking like neutral or like very slightly, like depending on how many points they give you to rate a thing, like either like very slightly off the center to one direction or another, or like dead center, because I'm just like, how do you want me to answer this? Like, how do you want me to answer this, right? So so yeah, like I think the most recent one of those that I took rated me as like an ENTP or something. But like I said, I think I'm a bit more introverted than those things give me credit for. And that's kind of what attracts a lot of goths to it, is because like, yes, even when you've got this music that can um go into that can get political, it is touching more on like the individual philosophical level. Like it is um it is touching more on like interpersonal relationships rather than community relationships. And so yeah, like as I said in my comment on Angela Benedict's um Facebook post about how um rap and hip hop can't easily blend into goth music, because um because in spite of the fact that yes, there is more to goth music than simply gothic rock and dark wave, as like your average Reddit dipshit will insist on, until like probed harder to admit that like no, they're just like drawing these lines arbitrarily for some reason. But yeah, where was I going? Right. um like sometimes like you can't easily mix one thing with another. um and I brought up that goth is based very much on atmosphere, like much like with the gothic literature. Like Neil Gaiman has said that what differentiates gothic literature from horror literature and film, like he's kind of including film in this as well, because a lot of books get made into movies, right? Of course. So yeah, like in what differentiates gothic literature and film from horror literature and film is the atmosphere. Um, so like does the atmosphere um like touch on some of these like more existentialist themes? Does the atmosphere touch on a more like introverted level? Does the atmosphere like does the atmosphere bring in this this sense of being one within many? Or does the atmosphere touch on a more primal level? And that's where you get horror, and likewise horror punk, right? Like I said, I can see the argument that some bands are either punk or metal. Plasmatics, Rosemary's Babies especially being one of them, like out of New Jersey. Like, of course, then again, I will often argue that Rosemary's Babies, 45 Grave even, and to an extent like Plasmatics, they're horror punk, right? 45 Grave definitely. But okay, how am I supposed to end this one? Okay, Rep McGraw. Okay, so it just wants me to go all the way, huh? Okay. Oh, I think I might have fudged a thing up a bit. Oh well, I'll fix it somehow. You know what? I'll fix it this way. Okay. So, like, the reason that, your average hip-hop won't really go well mixed into dark wave or avant-goth, kind of music has a lot more to do with atmosphere. Hip-hop, rapping is a very, very, much like punk, it can be very in your face. And I concluded that, like, when goths do the rhythmic non-singing vocals to their music, it's called spoken word poetry. So like that's where you get Roz Williams' 2 solo albums of spoken word over noise, over industrial noise. And I would argue that those are less your average industrial albums because, like even for industrial noise, like they're a little bit less that. And it's definitely more goth because of the way that he uses the industrial noise under music to his spoken word, the way he uses that to create this atmosphere of dread that we get from Edgar Allan Poe, from the Bronte sisters, from brain farting, Gaston Leroux with Phantom of the Opera and all that, right? So yeah, like I would argue very easily that Roz's 2 spoken word albums, like yes, the music track that is juxtaposed along his spoken word poetry is industrial noise by technicality, but these are ultimately albums of gothic music because of the atmosphere that they create together. Like he used this brilliantly for creating atmosphere. So like that is the main difference. And that's kind of why, like, in spite of their name, I will say Gothsicles. The first time I saw them was at Convergence 20 in Chicago some years ago. 8 years ago? Something like that. So yeah, like some years ago, Chicago, Convergence 20. I was there. Oh yeah, that was 2015, and I remember that because that was the same summer I moved back to Ipsy. Like I moved back at the end of the summer, and Nigel was 2.5. So yeah, 2015, Convergence 20. I was there, and I saw Gothsicles for the first time, and they're one of those bands where, like, every time I've seen them live, which is now twice, I can't tell if I like them or not. Like, they are great guys. They are sweet guys. but I can't tell, like, do I like this? Do I like what I'm listening to and watching? What the hell is this that I'm listening to and watching? I've come to the conclusion that Gothsicles are this interesting blend of nerdcore rap and industrial. And I'm not sure if it works. I'm not sure if it works. I'm really not. And I'm so unsure if it works. And like, I like some stupid music. I like some stupid music. I've got all three of Pia Zadora's albums, right? This is stupid music. But I dig it, right? And I can't tell, like, is this stupid enough that I like it, or is this too stupid? Like, what is the grade of stupid that I'm not sure if I'm enjoying, but I like these guys, so, like, they're nice guys. They are sweet guys. I can kind of see why some people get into it. Like, I like some nerdcore rap myself. I'm all about MC Hawking, who like continued with Stephen Hawking's blessing after he discovered that this was a thing that that nerds on the internet were making music under the name of, right? So yeah, like I love me some MC Hawking. I enjoy nerdcore hip hop in certain contexts anyway, in certain doses. But Gothsicles are one of those bands. They're one of those bands where I can't tell, like, how do I feel about this? Like, not the guys. The guys are nice. The guys are sweet. They are very enthusiastic about what they do. They seem to pack a crowd every time they play live, that at least the two times I've seen them. So clearly there are enough people who think they're good enough at what they do to, like, pack a venue. Okay, I get it. I get it on that level. But do I get it? Do I get it on this level? Like, it is this, and I'm never sure. I am never sure. I'm like, what the hell? What is going on here? I'm not sure what I'm watching or listening to. I'm not sure if I like it, but I think it's good enough for what it is, right? They're a confusing band, but again, in spite of their name, I would definitely say they're more industrial music because, like, I mean, well, take out the rapping, we're listening to industrial music. This is not one of those, like, this is not one of those things where you're like asking, is it dark wave or is it industrial? Like, there's some music that's kind of like that, where I find myself asking, like, are we sure? Like, I know we say the band, like when we're talking the band's overall body of work, that it fits more nicely into this genre or this genre, because there's a couple bands where I'm thinking about like that, but they've got a handful of songs where it's hard to tell. Like, these songs might cross genre, but hasn't reached that threshold yet, right? Like, so yeah, like, you take the rapping out of Gothsicles, it's inarguably industrial music. Why they went with the name Gothsicles? They're a band, like, they can name themselves whatever the hell they want. Now, as far as that mumblecore SoundCloud goth rap, I'm like, no, like, you can't even say that this is doing what Gothsicles does, because it's coming at it from more, like, I love Ishkur's Guide to Electronic Music. It managed to change my mind about some genres of electronic music. Just like reading through that, and it gives you a pretty decent understanding of, like, most genres, and the guy behind it is pretty cool about making it clear that, like, some music is kind of hard to plug into this genre or another, but but yeah, they're coming at it at, like, definitely kind of like a trance house beat, which has more in common with 1990s rave culture than it does with the goth subculture. So it's like, it's mumble rap. It's got this, it's got your basic house trance beats under it, a little bit close. It's on that, like, kind of precipice where like, is it trance or is it house? It's a little bit closer to trance. And yes, under Ishkur's guide, he includes gothic rock. Well, he lists gothic rock in with trance, like when you go on that tab on Ishkur's guide. But he explains that it's not there as an example of trance music, but to more explain the influence of how we were able to bridge between like how we bridged the gap from synth pop to dark wave, right? So like how we bridged the gap between Italo synth pop, British new wave, British like new wave synth pop, and dark wave. Like so gothic rock is on Ishkur's guide under trance as kind of a family tree, to explain this one spot, this one branch on the family tree. Like that is why the guy behind Ishkur's guide included gothic rock on there. So yeah, and the mumble rap SoundCloud gothic rap, stuff that is like far more along like, your straight up rave trance music. So yeah. And I just got to bring it up again because I am kind of entertained. I am far more entertained than I am horrified. Some people in Angela's comments were kind of on the horrified side of this, but I gotta defend the Juggalo rivet heads that like when things get back to as normal as they ever are around here with what passes for our dark alternative night at Necto in downtown Ann Arbor. I kind of have a soft spot for the Juggalo rivet heads. They kind of entertain me. And again, like a lot of these kids, like I said, who are juggalos and rivet heads, like in the way like some people describe their music subcultural taste as both, gothic and heavy metal. Like you see a lot of people who are both into goth music and metalheads. Like either they're primarily goths who are into some metal because Fields of the Nephilim, or they're more metalheads who are also into some gothic music because Fields of the Nephilim. Lucifer says Juggalos are great. Oh yeah, Juggalos get a bad rap. But like most of them, they're decent kids. And I say kids knowing that some of these people, like, oh, I've got a friend who is kind of not talking to me right now because she's got her own mental health issues that she's tending to. I am more than willing to resume our speaking status whenever she is good with that. But yeah, like she's a bit of a juggalo and a bit of a metalhead, and she's also pagan, so of course she's got like a shit ton of Lorena McKinnon and Enya albums. And because of the Lorena McKinnon and Enya, she's into some goth music, but, she's more of a juggalo mixed with metalhead. Okay, understandable. She likes some industrial music more than some goth music, but, yeah. So yeah, like, I'm not quite including her amongst the juggalo rivet heads that go to Factory Mondays in Ann Arbor, just because she's a bit more into metal in addition to horrorcore rap. She likes some old school punk too, like especially like the horror punk. But yeah, like again, it's because like like punk and rap, like as far as the club scene goes, like oh my god, like punks, like punk bands that go neo-Nazi on me, it just floors me. I'm just like, how do you do that? Especially like if you actually understand the history and how like rap and punk got along swimmingly very early in like both subcultures, right? Like they're kind of like the fraternal twins, who like, yeah, you can argue that they're, like no more identical than any other siblings, but they've got that like but they've got a bit of a twin bond because they shared a womb, right? And they will still have like this, like that twin bond hijinks where, this has been observed in fraternal twins as much as with identical twins, is like, because they're twins, like they will kind of like make up their own little weird twin language that only they understand and can decipher, and will use to be like shady in front of people without other people realizing it, right? So like that's kind of like how I see rap and punk music, is like they're kind of those fraternal twins that go off on their goofy hijinks. I can see industrial and goth music in kind of the same way. As like, yeah, they're no more identical than any other siblings, but because they formed together, like because they shared a womb together, being the nightclub scene, because they shared that womb of the nightclub scene together very early on in their evolution, it's like they're inseparable. They're inseparable as a club scene. But I can understand the arguments that, musically, stylistically, they're just different enough that it can be annoying to confuse the two, right? And they're just different enough that in a large enough city, you can justify having one industrial night and one goth night, like that aren't even like two floors of the same club, right? You can justify that in a large enough city, but most people aren't in those super big cities, right? So you gotta like kind of blend them together. And then like, Ann Arbor, like at some point they just gave up calling Factory Mondays goth and industrial. They just kind of call it dark alternative because it's a nerd geek dork freak scene. It's basically like all the nerd geek dork freaks, who shared the same cafeteria table, as I mentioned way back in my old as fuck Columbine video, the nerd geek dork freak table. Like that's Factory Mondays at Necto in downtown Ann Arbor. It's the nerd geek dork freak table grown up and liquored up. So we get rivet head juggalos. We get juggalos who are equally as passionate about industrial music and can go into like some serious arguments on how you can very easily like couple of them are DJs, like on Twitch and whatever, and are just like, oh yeah, like you can talk to some of these kids, and I say kids even though they're like, like in their early mid 30s, so like barely younger than me, but it's like, like yeah, we're all kids at heart in some level, right? But like you can talk to them and they will very passionately go on about like, oh yeah, I was like DJing on Twitch the other night and I was beat matching like some stuff from like the great Malenko seamlessly into some Skinny Puppy and KMFDM, like right sandwiched right in there between them. And I believe them. I'm just not. I just don't like ICP's music. I don't like the rest of the Psychopath Records oeuvre. Definitely not enough to try and incorporate it into some of my radio shows, but I believe them. Like, if you're that passionate about both horrorcore rap and industrial music, you will find a way to make them work on, like, the same, like, DJ stream, right? You'll find a way to beat match that shit together. So, yeah, like, that's what I gotta say about industrial rap music. That, like, the confusion for why some people who seem very earnestly into goth as a subculture, but will still kind of make these half-assed defenses of goth rap, it comes down to the fact that like I said, as a club scene, industrial and goth music are fraternal twins. They shared the womb that is the nightclub scene very early on in the formations of both music subcultures. So, like, they're no more different than any other siblings, but they're just similar enough that they will mess with you. Like they will mess with the rest of the family because they have that bond, right? And it can, and you know, and then you've got fraternal twins like the Olsens, right? Like they are technically fraternal twins, but they also can pass for identical, right? You know, which is where you've got, you know, like some musicians, like I said, like the Roz Williams spoken word albums, right? You've got Industrial Noise soundtrack under his spoken word, but because of the atmosphere this creates, these are goth albums. Like these are albums of goth music. And I will argue that point to anybody who wishes to dare me to, okay? I will do it. I will. Oh, I'm assuming Megan is being a little facetious with they're not identical. I know, right? Who would have thought that like two Oh no, I think you're asking about the Olsen twins. Oh yeah, they are fraternal twins. They're fraternal twins that pass for identical. It's actually a bit more common than you think. It's actually a bit more common than you realize. But yeah, like they've there's been a lot of in fact, like there are also like genetically identical twins who look fraternal. Like, you know, like they don't look enough alike even though they're technically identical, which means that, you know, like they formed from a split zygote, right? Like egg like gets the sperm in there, and so identical twins form when the same fertilized egg kind of splits in two, right? And you get conjoined twins when the fertilized egg doesn't split completely. Okay, so that's conjoined twins. Identical twins is when the same fertilized egg splits into two. What happens with fraternal twins is every so often, and this becomes a bit more common the further, you know, like the older you are, like geriatric pregnancies are kind of notorious for not only producing a higher rate of neurodivergent offspring, but also a higher rate of fraternal twins. Because, you know, like your body's just like trying to like unload the last of the eggs. They're just like, no, we're getting perimenopausal here in a couple of years. So let me just like spit out a couple of them at once. So fraternal twins, now it's not confined to geriatric pregnancies. Like sometimes you can be like 18 and, you know, get pregnant with fraternal twins because, you know, your body just, you know, accidentally spit out two eggs that both got fertilized. So yeah, like that's fraternal twins. Why sometimes identical twins, and this happens a bit less commonly, but sometimes you'll get identical twins that don't really look anything alike. But genetically speaking, they are identical. Like you can do a DNA, they have the same DNA, right? Like that's why it's called identical twins, because it's like nature's own cloning, right? It's natural cloning. So yeah, like when you do a DNA test, they may look fraternal, but they're identical because that's how it worked, right? But fraternal twins, it's a bit more common that you'll have fraternal twins who can pass for identical. You know, and one of the most famous examples being the Olsen twins. So yeah, I don't know why that's more common than identical twins who don't look identical, but it happens a lot. It happens a lot. I don't know what the leading theories are as to why that happens, but it happens a lot. So yeah, like in the industrial music scene and the goth music scene, they evolved. They are fraternal twins. They evolved. They gestated in the same nightclub scene, like at the same time. And in most cities, which are not huge metropoli, in most cities, you know, they will share the nightclub scene continuously because, like most fraternal twins, they will have their own same little, they will have their weird little twin speak to mess with everybody else. And you know, so yeah, like that's why. But yeah, like it's because they're fraternal twins, and they're fraternal twins who might even be the same apparent sex at birth, but like one has blonde hair, one has brown hair. Facially, they might look similar enough, but like when their hair grows out long enough, you can tell like they they're they almost look like identical if one of them will dye their hair to match the other ones, right? So yeah, like that's how I describe goth and industrial. That industrial is like the fiery redheaded fraternal twin. Goth is the more introspective, big on atmosphere, arguably a little bit more shy, but the deeper thinker, brunette fraternal twin, right? So whereas like punk and hip hop, like you get so many punk, and like you get into like early punk and early I'd say like late 70s, very early 80s punk and early rap. Because like I said, like in the club scene in many cities, when especially New York, when hip hop was coming into its own as a genre, like I said, the black clubs preferred to play disco, funk, soul. They did not want to play rap. But the punk clubs, so your CBGB, your Max's Kansas City, those are the big ones everybody knows about. I'm not from New York. Please don't ask me details, beyond that. They would play the punk, they would play the hip hop albums. They would play the rap singles. That's how Chuck D and Scott Ian first met, right? It's like Chuck D was doing promo and like taking some new singles to the punk clubs, where Scott Ian, Lil Skater Punk, and his brand new band Anthrax that he just formed in 1982, right? And he's meeting Chuck. And he's like, "Oh my god, man, I love these records. Like, and like Chuck D, kind of got the it was a few years later that he formed Public Enemy, but he's just like, yeah, like I know enough of these people in the music scene here, and might as well. I've been reading a lot of stuff from the Black Panther Party, like in the 60s, right? Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And Scott Ian's there like, yeah, man, do it. But, like, let me introduce you to Flava Flav. He might become a complete dickbag in about 30 years, but he is just as excited about your about this stuff as I am. And so it's like, I don't know if Scott Ian was the one to introduce them. That's kind of like my headcanon. Scott and I, Best X and I, have written, have kind of like, half-assed written, like, stupid little Chuck D. Scott Ian fanfics where we're just like, yeah, they do, that's how they collaborate, is like they were old friends from, like Chuck D's days doing promo, and going to all the punk clubs in like New York and New Jersey at the time. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, like let's write some adventures of like little Scott Ian, like like I don't know. Best X and I get goofy. Oh my gosh, like he and I kind of act like those fraternal twins with the twin language that we use to like mess with people, although we don't do it intentionally. Like, we've got a couple friends who are just like, are you sure you're still not together? And we're just like, absolutely. Because, but yeah, we've kind of got one of those vibes that either comes off as siblings who, may be occasionally annoyed with each other, but will ultimately have each other's backs no matter what, or it could be like that old married couple that's been together like 20, 40 years or something. Like, we give off either of those vibes. I've had people say both things about Best X and I when, like we were observed in the wild hanging out together. So, okay. Skip. Okay. Oh, okay. Single there, chain two, double in single. Okay. Yep. Okay. I know what I'm doing now. Um, so yeah, like that is where I would say that the uh, the distinction lies. Is it's not so much that goths can't enjoy rap that um that has the right kind of music to go along with it. It's that the nature of both genre don't like it would be there's a project that some people did. Apparently it's older than I thought, than I originally thought, like years ago, right? Like this is like I think they did it in the 80s. I think. Like do a search on YouTube after I end the stream or tomorrow or whatever. Like make yourself a note to go do a search for the most annoying song in the world or maybe worst song in the world. Like that is kind of how I think like goth and rap would turn out if you tried to mix them together. Is like it would end up kind of like this, where you've got these very disparate genre blended together. I mean, on the one hand, it's kind this like worst song ever, like that is like based on like surveys that people conducted, and then it was written to like fall within like what people would consider like the most annoying music in the world if you were to combine it. Like there's a whole verse where they go on about it's Labor Day, schools are closed and we're out cooking, right? Like people hate holiday music, so they decided to like insert the most random holidays they could. This is kind of a Dada masterpiece, which I love about it. But at the same time, if you're making more serious music, I would say, rather than like a bizarro Dada statement about music, you kind of want to take your you kind of want to like do your genre blending a bit more mindfully. So yeah, so that is why I would say that like yes, rapping goes very well with industrial music. It goes very well with heavy metal and punk. It won't really go so well with goth and like the mumble rap SoundCloud people who, you know, like they're laying it under some of the most generic sounding trance beats. It sounds like it's got more in it sounds like it would really appeal to like the overlap of 90s stoners and ravers, where like, you know, they're up in, you know, like where they're up like 36 hours at a time, but like the last half of that, like, you know, like first they spend the first 18 of that on ecstasy, and then the last 18 of that, like they're still kind of they're still kind of speeding out, but that is where they switch from mixing it with X to smoking some bowls, right? You know, like so like the overlap of like hips of like ravers and stoners, that's how I see that kind of, you know, the SoundCloud gothic mumble rap appealing to. It's not goth music. I mean, that's not to say goths can't enjoy it. I know a number of people who, due to the overlap with industrial music in certain rave scenes, depending on your city, of course, you know, they love like, you know, rave trance music. So, you know, of course they're all, you know, like, I mean, primarily they might like industrial music primarily. They might like some goth music peripherally, but again, like it's you know, that's not just, like I said, it's not about, you know, like nobody's gatekeeping. Like you can like music that is not goth and still be goth. That's ultimately what it comes down to, is like, just because you as a goth may enjoy this music doesn't mean it has to be goth because you enjoy it. And if you think this somehow sounds almost identical to goth music, then it's probably because you've been a tad confused by the fraternal twin relationship between goth and industrial music. That, like, yes, they shared a womb of a nightclub scene together, and a lot of early artists of both genres did cross both genres. That, like, nobody is disputing that. but like when you apply genre theory, like that's where it becomes very distinct, and that's that's why like even under the broad brush term of goth music that I use, um like some things will just make a bit more sense to blend together than other things. Oh, that's where I goofed. Okay, let me see about. Let me try and fix it. Let me try and fix it without unraveling the whole thing. Hey, I might have fixed it. Yeah, I think I might have fixed it. Oh, yeah. There we go. Nobody can tell the difference between these bits here that I did properly, and let's finish up this this rep before I finish the row, and then I've got this bit here that, like, if you look close enough, like I am right now, like because I just did it, like you might see the goof, but it's also a part of the sleeve that is like just high enough that you're gonna have to like be mashing your face up against somebody's shoulder to necessarily notice the goof. So yeah. So yeah, that's what I got to say about industrial and rap music is that like the TLDR, if you just want to like fast forward to this far along, when I go and like break this up into segments, TLDW is that rap goes along swimmingly with industrial music, with heavy metal music, and with punk music because these are as genre, these are not as reliant on atmosphere as goth music is. So like as three genres of music, they're not as reliant on atmosphere. Goth music is very reliant on atmosphere. And like even when it's political, it's very much about atmosphere. It's about and not just like the oral atmosphere, but lyrical atmosphere. Like are these like if the lyrics are political, are they more on the philosophical side or more on the social side of the political of the politics here? Like when Rubella Ballet is singing Every Second Counts, I mean it's kind of existentialism 101 lesson in that. But when Poison Girls are singing Dirty Work, which is like literally Rubella Ballet's mom was like the leader of Poison Girls, like that is very overt. It relies less on atmosphere. It's a bit more extroverted than introverted, if you want to like reduce it to like Jungian terms. Oh my gosh, I've got Jung is one of those people where I've got very mixed feelings, but I've got very clear feelings about people who kind of misuse his work because they understood it, but only up to a point, but they think they know more than they do. And it's like if you've actually like dove into Jung, you'll have complicated feelings about Jung. If you've got very straightforward feelings about Jung, you probably haven't familiarized yourself with enough Jung. But yeah. So yeah, rap, like metal, like punk, like metal, punk, and industrial music, they're very extroverted genre. Whereas goth is a bit more of an introverted it's a bit more of an introverted music category. So yeah, gothic rock, so like gothic rock, dark wave, dark cabaret, and dark avant-garde or avant-goth. This is very much based on atmosphere. That's like that's where I'll say is like the divide between like do you want to like yes, Fad Gadget has been very influential on industrial music, but I would say ultimately his music is more goth because he's a lot more about atmosphere with his own music. That's not to say he can't influence industrial musicians, but like if you want to like make me decide on a hard and fast genre for his work, I'll say it's more goth than industrial, just due to the atmosphere that he produces with his music. So, um, and when goths do rhythmic, non-singing vocals with their music, it's called spoken word poetry. And Ross Williams' two albums of spoken word poetry are very evidentiary of this. So yeah, I don't know why I necessarily included Gothic game nights as a topic I wanted to talk about tonight. So this is going to be very brief. I might expand on that later, but I put this in the title. I didn't edit the title in time before starting the stream, so I just want to like mention that I had some serious. I used to organize a board game night locally for goths. It was kind of an all ages thing. But like I think the youngest person who regularly showed up was he was 17 when he first started showing up, which like I've been on my own since I was 17, and that's because in no small part because like the local sheriff in Lenawee County told my dad like no, it sounds like this is the only kid you've got with any sense in their head, that we're not on a first name basis with this kid of yours, so Ray, just drop it. But that's another story for another time. That's a story I've told many times before. I should put it in its own story time video, shouldn't I? Probably. Why haven't I done so yet? I'm a moron. Yeah, I've got a 157 IQ, but I'm a fucking moron at the end of the day. I can do logic puzzles. Oh boy, what good has it done me? I've got 3 cats and a shit ton of musical instruments that and 15 years of voice study and of classical voice study, 5 years viola study in both classical and jazz, and 3 cats who boss me around all that goddamn day. But yeah. I am proof positive that having a super genius level IQ doesn't mean shit, because at the end of the day, I'm a fucking dumbass. One of these days, my niece is going to figure out like how stupid I am, and she's no longer going to think I'm like the coolest adult in the family. I mean, she'll still love me, but she'll kind of feel sorry for me, right? But yeah, like enough of my pity party. So yeah, I used to run a game night for goths, and it's kind of funny like how many board games I've discovered that seem to know like that seem to be like hoping to appeal to a certain demographic. Okay, and that is like the pale kids in black on the Nerd Geek Dork Freak cafeteria table. I've got a bunch of board games that and card games that I just love. I'm not so much into the video games. I've always been more of a board game person. This might be why I check slightly more extroverted a lot of times, is because like, my gamer nature is focused on board games. I like the closest I'll do to like your like your classic gamer stereotypes is like, I love the goddamn pencil and paper tabletop storytelling RPGs, like the adventure story kind of RPGs. I love those. I don't so much. I know there are video games that kind of do the same thing. Like Warcraft is all about that on some levels, anyway. But it just doesn't appeal to me. It just, I don't know. Maybe it's because like my family was so broke when I was growing up in the 80s that like we literally did not have like even a basic used Nintendo system at any point in the 80s or 90s. And believe me, my younger sister especially would cry and whine and plead for them. Even like when she was a little old, as like 16, like, I want to. And dad's like, well, we're fucking broke, kiddo. But where was I going with this? Fuck if I know. Okay, wait. Repeat. So wait, remind me which one was 4 again. Okay. So repeat 5. Okay. But yeah, I've got a lot of board games that are very clearly trying to appeal to the gothically inclined. There's Gloom, which I have every expansion for. I have the spin-off of Cthulhu Gloom. And I'm making a new box to like hold the expansions because there's some people that I kind of agree with on BoardGameGeek.com that if you use all the expansions at once, it kind of makes the gameplay a bit messy. And so what you do instead is you gotta have the expansion specific cards separated out and probably add no more than 2 expansions to a game, and then like, you know, at the end of the game, like separate them back out and all that. But still, it's like there is a way to make Gloom work with all the expansions, but you really shouldn't play all expansions at once. I love that game. It's really ingenious in how it was written and designed. Granted, I've got the first edition of the base game, so I've got the first edition of the base game, so some of the cards do look a bit different from the others. But yeah, I love it. It's based on gothic horror. It's based on the gothic genre, literary genre. It's the art is very much inspired by Edward Gorey, which, come on, we love Edward Gorey. Goths love Edward Gorey, like possibly more than we love Tim Burton, if only because we can tell how Tim Burton and his whole aesthetic was influenced not just by old German expressionist silent films, which it very clearly was. Like first time Worst X, first time I made Worst X watch some German expressionism, he immediately recognized the influence that it had on Tim Burton, because he's a big Tim Burton geek, and which I felt very proud of. I'm like, I loved like seeing his face light up when he noticed that in Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, there is not a single right angle in that whole film. And or I guess technically when there are right angles, if only because, like certain sets had to be structurally sound, the camera was tilted at just enough of an angle to create this disorientating kind of atmosphere to it. So it's like, like visually, like when you're watching it on the screen, you don't see a single right angle, right? I love it. But yeah, I don't know. I might have had a better idea on where to go with this if I had thought much more about it before I did, So then item 3. Oh gosh, do I want to get up and get a drink of water? What time is it? Oh shit. It is 12:30. Okay. I am taking a pause. I realize how fucking hungry I am right now, And if you've been a long time viewer of the streams, you know that I am brutally self-conscious about eating on camera. Like, the last few times I technically did, because um um I horribly like or I guess underestimated the time it would take for like Chinese takeaway to get delivered to me. So like I horribly underestimated like how much that time was relative to starting the stream that I'd scheduled for myself. And so like I will technically be eating on camera, but I will like force my face out of the out of the frame to avoid being seen eating on camera. So yeah, I am like I said, it's about 12:30. I've needed a glass of water for a while, and taking a pause, I realize how brutally hungry I am. So unfortunately, I think I'm going to put like topic 3 from tonight on pause until next week. I think that's just where I think I'm just gonna like continue on this next Sunday. So yeah, I'm gonna come back to asexual doublespeak because it is a huge goddamn issue with the online. Like, I'm not even gonna say asexual community as in like, you know, as a sexual minority community. I'm gonna call it a fucking subculture because that's more what it is. It's more it operates more like a fandom than um than a subtype of human sexuality. And they engage in a lot of double speak, and I actually like have a bunch of points to bring to that. Unfortunately, I'm brutally hungry. I refuse to eat on camera because I am a fat ass who does not want to be judged. So like even if I'm having a perfectly reasonable portion of, you know, whatever it is I'm eating, I know I'm going to be judged. Like, as a fat ass, I'm just naturally going to be judged eating. It's why I don't like eating in public either. Like, why I would actually like rather get or if I am out at a restaurant, I would much rather be out at a restaurant either with somebody I trust or by myself, so that people I care about don't watch me eat. Megan Raquel asks, "You ever see Foodie Beauty? She has no shame eating." I've seen people offer commentary on Chantal, and she's got some serious mental health issues that she is nowhere near willing to address. And I kind of feel bad for her, but at the same time, like, this is a woman in her mid 30s, I believe. I believe that's about where she's at. I know she's one of those people like Dorian out of Herbs and Altars, who's just like maybe 4 or 5 years younger than myself, but I know some people will think I'm fucking bonkers for saying this, but I honestly think Dorian has their shit a bit more together than Chantal does. Right? Like, I mean, if only because Dorian is willing to admit that they have a history with disordered eating. And Chantal, and Dorian has, been in and out of recovery for their disordered eating, whereas Chantal is barely willing to address the fact that she has a disordered relationship with food. Whereas, like I said, like, Dorian seems to, if only just barely, have their shit a bit more together than Chantal does. Because at the very least, Dorian recognizes that there is a problem. Dorian knows how to take care of the problem when when they are when they are like relapsing into their disordered eating. Like at some point, either through gentle nudging from family who are familiar enough with this history of theirs, or become self-aware at some point and is just like, fuck, I'm getting back in, I'm jumping back into my old problem. I got to get this taken care of. I'm going to sign into some inpatient or, something. Like, Dorian seems to at least understand, at least seems to understand that they're a mess and that sometimes they need help addressing their mess. Like, I have that social worker from the local hoarders task force, which like my social worker has even said that most people that she works with have a bit more of a problem than I do. That like when you see the people on TV on those misery on those voyeuristic misery series, that like these can be the worst of the worst, or even if they're not, it's shot in a way to kind of make it look like a bigger problem than it is. I mean, it's still a huge ass problem, but yeah, she says like I'm one of like in the 10 years she's been working with people with this, that I'm one of like out of 10 years, I'm one of like maybe 3 people who is aware enough of their tendencies, which in my case, it's due in part to ADHD. Like we have tendencies towards clutter. That's just a fact of having ADHD. That's just a fact of this neurodivergence. Then there's my dad. My dad had a huge issue with hoarding and pack ratting. It long predated his head injury, though his head injury certainly did not help things. And then what was it? But thankfully, like my mother and my stepmother after him were able to get him to reel it in. Like they were able to get him to reel it in inside the house. Now, what happened in the the garage that we had in Metro Detroit, at the Metro Detroit house, or like after he remarried and we moved in with my stepmother, like the barn at her place. Well, more like the auxiliary barn, because like she had the chicken coop, which it had an unusual design for a chicken coop. It was a bit more like an open air shed. It was designed in this unusual way by one of her sons, I forget which one, but it was designed in this unusual way to accommodate her arthritis better, because that's what she and I did a lot, like every other weekend at the farmer's market. And then after the farmer's market, we'd go antiquing for rich SOBs in Bloomfield. And then on the weeks we weren't at the farmer's market selling farm fresh eggs, we were out antiquing for rich SOBs in Bloomfield. But yeah, like, so my social worker with the Hoarders Task Force, she says that like I'm one of like 3 people in 10 years she's met who is self-aware enough of the problem to make the call themselves rather than like wait for a landlord to do it, right? Like usually she's contacted by landlords or family members, but in 10 years I'm maybe the 3rd person to call on their own behalf saying, I have a problem, I need help like addressing this, right? I need some help with this. So yeah, like that's yeah, I've not been the best this last month, when I have suddenly discovered myself between therapists, though that has more to do with like insurance nonsense than anything. I love my therapist, but Due to insurance, I am currently between therapists. So yeah. Um, mm, 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 mm. But 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 yeah, so yeah, like that's where I will say, like, I'm gonna give Dorian some credit because they can be kind of annoying at times, and they've got some kind of beef with me when, like, I was actually like a lot nicer in that, call out video than I was to our little New Zealand princess who has a gross misunderstanding of the subculture, or at least deep enough of a misunderstanding that she is willing to uh, shill, but whatever. But yeah, like, I don't know. Dorian's got some kind of issue with me, other than being significantly nicer. And yet, they'll still occasionally, like, drop some signals in their videos that they watch my own videos, um, including including like watching my streams from the archive. I don't get it. Okay, you do you, hun, but whatever. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I find them kind of annoying at times. At others, I'm just like, um, I'm just like, at least they're entertaining, right? At least they're entertaining, like, and that's like kind of become like this last year, like my that is where I set my bar, to judge whether or not I've had a good day. Have I entertained myself? And Dorian's YouTube name, they're of Herbs and Altars. Um, but yeah, like Dorian's done a bunch of videos recently that has me kind of thinking, I think I might qualify for eating disorder not otherwise specified, so ED, NOS. But I only think that, like, like, you really shouldn't try and diagnose yourself, even if you do have the education to diagnose, even if you do have the education and credentials to diagnose others, or at least those who are, seeking you as their mental health professional. But yeah, like, self-diagnosis, it's I know there's some discourse around that, but it's one of those things where you can read about, like, what the qualifications for a diagnosis are and say, okay, this might make some sense for me. This might make some sense for me. I think this might be my issue. And until you can get some, a qualified mental health professional to confirm this diagnosis, or maybe they'll see something that you didn't because, you were kind of focused on the one thing for whatever reason, it happens. But but yeah, so had a thought. Where'd it go? Oh right, yeah, like the whole self-diagnosis thing, like, I would say proceed with caution. Don't like take it don't take yourself like too seriously if you're gonna, like, read up on symptoms and see what your issue might be, because you still want to have that confirmed by a qualified professional. But it's better to say, I think this might be my issue, rather than this is definitely my issue, because you're not a qualified professional. And even qualified professionals, ethically, they should not self-diagnose, right? like there's a conflict of interest there, because of course you're gonna like, there's an ethical conflict of interest for professionals that will prevent them from diagnosing themselves, like, in a literal fashion. But yeah, you can bring your suspicions to a qualified professional when you can find one, that you are able to see by all reasonable metrics, right? But yeah, I think I might qualify for an ED-NOS diagnosis, and not just because I'm extremely self-conscious about people seeing me eat, but like other weird little food habits that I've kind of had for a long ass time that I will slip in and out of. And I know a lot of people with more specific ED will this will also have some comorbidity with self-harm tendencies, which I've definitely had for ages. I've been fairly open about that. I pull my hair out. I have gotten to a point where I no longer pull hair out of my head, but I destroy tweezers, right? Like, you think this might be a difficult implement to destroy, but I go through tweezers. Like, I'm kind of embarrassed by it. I'm not going to give you a number on, like, how many tweezers I've destroyed this year alone because, and I'm talking, like, not this last 12 months, but I'm talking 2021. So yeah, like, like I said, I think I may qualify for an EDNOS diagnosis, just because of some of the weird specifics I get, plus also comorbidity with Lucifer says, one of my moderators says that they'd love to get evaluated for autism. I can see that because the autistic ADHD solidarity is real. Like, I am not the only person I know with ADHD who who seems to have a disproportionate number of friends on the autism spectrum. So yeah, like I said, I'm not the only person I know like that. And I can see how on The Good Doctor, Leia arguably is written to have many ADHD traits, which is one of the reasons that I think her and Sean together is just goddamn adorable. Like, they get each other on this, like on a way that kind of complements the way their neurodivergences function, right? Like, it's very complementary, and there's a reason that people with ADHD will often have a relatively disproportionate number of friends on the autism spectrum, like when compared to relatively neurotypical people, and vice versa. You'll often run into a lot of people with a lot of autistic people who will have a disproportionate number of friends on the ADHD spectrum, relative to, more neurotypical people. It is a real thing. It's kind of cool. I kind of like it. But yeah, like, if you were, like, if Lucifer, does get evaluated for ASD, and that ends up being a thing of, with your brain, it would not surprise me, because you wouldn't be the only friend of mine that, got evaluated a bit later in life. And I say later in life as in, like, you're out of high school. You're out of high school. You're probably no longer in college for whatever reasons, right? Or if you are, you're working on, like, a graduate degree. So, like, you're not the only person I know who would be, like, mid to late 20s, maybe early. The one friend of mine was, like, early 30s when he finally got evaluated and confirmed. And, in his case, he's just like, oh my God, it's like such a breath of fresh air now. Like, suddenly, like, things just kind of make sense for, why my life is a mess in this specific kind of way. And I'm like, hey, dude, it makes sense. It makes sense, and I'm not surprised, because you and I get along swimmingly, and trust me, the ADHD autism solidarity is real. It is very real. And so, but yeah, and my other friend, their partner, I don't think they would necessarily qualify for, like, a an all-out ADHD diagnosis, but they definitely have a lot of traits in common with ADHD that it's like, they make sense. I was brutally in love with this friend for quite some time. Like, it was kind of consuming for most of a year. But which is like kind of where the hyper focus of ADHD, kind of comes in. It's just like, probably wasn't the healthiest thing, but um, at the same time, it's like I also knew it probably wasn't going to go anywhere, but I knew that, like at the end of the day, like even when he and I would like kind of bicker a little bit, at the end of the day, like he and I both knew that the other one meant well, so it's like we'd be there for each other if it came down to the quick. So yeah, like it was kind of a comforting, it was one of those like comforting crushes that, like even though it's not going to go anywhere, it's still nice to think about, like in an alternate universe maybe. But oh right, Lucifer said something. Oh yeah, I am glad that Lucifer's finally come around to Sean and Leia on The Good Doctor, because like I said, they are adorable. They complement each other very well. Um, and yeah, like when I'm on the Good Doctor Reddit, subreddit that's on there, where God, like I love Reddit for discussing TV shows with people. It kind of reminds me of like the old Usenet days, and with Babylon 5 and all that. Where was I going with this? But yeah, like yeah, I'm not the only person who reads Leia as, at the very least having a lot of ADHD traits, even if, she doesn't check off enough for a full diagnosis. I understand, Lucifer, who just said that if Leia hurts Sean, he will cut Leia. So yeah, like I understand. Lucifer's very, very attached to the titular Good Doctor. Lucifer also works with a lot of kids through young adults on the autism spectrum. So yeah, I understand that. But yeah, like you'd be one of my friends where like if you got evaluated, like even 5 years from now, like my other friend I just mentioned did, like because I think that would place you like 5 years down the road. I think that would place you at about the age he was when he finally got evaluated as an adult. He's not that much younger than. Oh wait, no, he's no. He's 6 years younger than me. So yeah, I think that's I don't know. I might be off a bit, but yeah, like it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me. You're one of those friends where it's like you wouldn't surprise me, but even if you didn't check off enough of the ticky box traits to qualify for like a proper diagnosis, it also wouldn't surprise me that it just would be like hey, like you are just barely off the spectrum. So it's like yeah, oh correction, if she hurts him again, yeah, I know. 5 years you'll be okay. Yeah, so you would be at my friend's age if that were to if it were to take that long, and you got the valley and all that. But yeah, oh my gosh, like pardon. Oh god. I'm going into personal shit. I should be eating right now. I should be ending this stream and eating and watching reruns of Frasier or something, because I'm old, and even though it's streaming, I still call them reruns because I'm old. I'm an aging Nancy boy past his prime, and oh my god, speaking of, oh my gosh, sometimes the whole like age of consent, like minor, like developmental minor kind of thing, like because like developmentally your the prefrontal cortex of your brain, especially the this portion of it that is that is associated with emotional regulation, and a lot of people with ADHD and other neurodivergences, like it won't even like be done developing until like significantly later than when it does with a neurotypical adult. But yeah, that's not fully developed until you're about 25, give or take a year. Some people will say like a hard and fast 26 or something, but within a year, like give or take a year, maybe two, that's still considered within the range of, developmentally, you know, neurotypical. But yeah, it can be as late as your early 30s for certain neurodivergencies. Um, I know that's especially true for ADHD and schizoaffective spectra. Um, but but yeah, so it's like, but oh wait, where was I going with this? Oh right. So yeah, so worst like sometimes though, like I think people like cut some of cut some younger people like too much slack with this because Worst X was 15 years my junior. Like he was 22, 23 when he and I were a thing. And but like he was emotionally manipulative, he was emotionally abusive, and yes, I know statistically, with me being 15 years older than him, like if I were a neurotypical adult, like that would definitely be like a far more like that would definitely be like a far more the power differential would be far more clear. Plus, I've heard through the grapevine through friends of mine who are ex-friends of his that Worst X actually is diagnosed narcissistic personality disorder with some antisocial, with some antisocial tendencies. So yeah, he's a pathological narcissist. Assuming this friend can be fully trusted on that, which I think I do. Like I think I do in this person's case. If only because they've known Worst X a bit longer than I have, and I remember Worst X telling me this about like how friend had like accompanied him to some kind of appointment or something. Like didn't sit in on it with him, but like kind of like hung out in the waiting room for him to like. So yeah, like it kind of matches up. I definitely I definitely think she's a trustworthy source. So yeah, it's very likely that like antisocial narcissist too. So yeah, like legit, he's a legit pathological narcissist. So yeah, like it kind of bugs me when some people get like very protective about people who are like just barely adults as per age of majority laws, because it doesn't really take into account the fact that there can be like some serious issues that can, flip the script and make the younger party the abuser. And that was definitely the case with Worst X. Like he is a legit he is a legit like diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder and having antisocial tendencies. So like yeah, he is a legit like worst common denominator pathological narcissist. I know some people with NPD can kind of like, rein their traits under control and can learn to adapt better to, other people. But yeah, Worst X, last I knew, was not such a person. And um he's probably not the most likely to resume therapy anytime soon, just because of the way he would just like very aggressively oppose the notion of going to see a therapist, even somebody who, like at the legit like free there's a free therapy clinic in the area. Like they don't do like medical free clinic, but it's like basically like free therapist clinic thing. And like he was like very aggressively opposed to even the notion of it. And I'm just like, okay, you do you, hun. And then, of course, like some months later, we break up. And sometime after, I run into a friend who is ex-friend of his who has indeed been actively avoiding him for some time. And I don't blame her. And so, yeah, like my suspicions were at least told by friend that, yeah, worst X is worst X for a reason. So yeah, like, um, but yeah, I brought up something because, oh yeah, because I'm an aging Nancy boy past my prime, and oh my gosh, I'm still just kind of like weirded out by last summer. Speaking of how I don't like to eat on camera, so I just like went down last summer to Dairy Queen just because it was one of those days that could be massively improved by the presence of ice cream in my face hole. And so I went down to the Dairy Queen. I took my bike to the Dairy Queen, and there's this kid, and like very, very clearly, like not an like if an adult, just barely 18, right? And and yeah, I later find out that he's 16, and I'm like, oh shit. Like, yes, that is technically legal in this state, but like, and I just told him, like, as he's awkwardly trying to flirt with me, I just straight up told him, I'm like, honey, I do not date any younger than 21 for a good reason. And so, like, yeah, technically legal in this state, but just not worth the trouble from where I sit. But that does make me feel a little bit flattered, right? That like goddamn barely legal teens, barely legal as far as like age of consent goes, minors, awkwardly try to flirt with me. And I'm old as shit, right? Like, I'm old as shit. Like, that has kind of become my personality amongst GothTube, is like, yeah, Ruin, he's old as shit. Like, that is his thing. He is the cranky old man who shakes his cane until you get off his lawn, right? I'm not a cranky old man. I'm a crazy old man. I'm the eccentric old man, right? But yeah, like, I'm old as shit. That's my shtick. That's like half my personality on YouTube is I'm old as shit. And it's like, it's kind of flattering, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't want to encourage this. I don't want to encourage this. Like, yes, it's flattering, but not a thing I want to encourage. Lucifer says, gets so weirded out when young people try to flirt. Right. Like, even if it's a case where, we're like, little Dairy Queen boy, like I said, just barely legal in this state. The reason I know that is because I came of age when Michigan still had enforceable anti-sodomy laws, which, under those statutes, says that men are not at a consenting age for sex with other men until they were 22. Like, that was enforceable in Michigan until 2006, when it came down from the when like they were all like decriminalized at the federal level. Though there are obscure loopholes in Michigan law because it's still technically on the books, it can be tacked on in certain specific cases of non-consensual, which is just basically legalese for saying rape is rape, but gay rape is rapier than hetero rape. So yeah, so like that's why I know like what the age of consent in Michigan is. And I know that because I'm old as shit, and in the 90s, like, gays really had to understand like this because, like, in the jurisdiction where it wasn't completely criminalized, which still existed at the federal level in the US until like January 2006. I think they were like considered unconstitutional in 2005, but it was one of those things where like didn't like start to apply until the following January or something. But yeah, so so yeah, like in the states where it wasn't completely criminal, meaning that like you could not legally consent to gay sex at all. There were the handful of states like Michigan where you could legally consent, but only if you were significantly older than a hetero couple, right? Like like in Michigan, I mean, and now it's across the board 16 plus age of consent. So in Michigan, you can be 16 years old and like booping somebody literally twice your age, 32. Though there are some statutes in Michigan that say that like there are certain conditions where the older party basically like if they're your superior or have seniority at work where they would have explicit or implicit authority. So like if your coworker is if you are 16 and your coworker is more than, I am not shitting, 3 years and 3 months older than you, if the coworker that is your potential sexual partner is more than 3 years and 3 months older than you, that would qualify as that would be statutory under sexual harassment. So yeah, like that would be considered statutory under sexual harassment guidelines. So like, no coworkers with who are like your on-job superiors or have seniority. So like not even a TA at your school. So like technically, oh wait, no, never. Actually, like that was a weird situation with an old friend of mine and his girlfriend, because like he was a TA, they were a year apart, but he was the younger one. But yeah, they were only a year apart, but yeah, how would that work out if she were 4 years his senior, but he was still the TA in her college class? I don't know how that would work out, because I know if he were the older one, if he were 4 years older and the TA, that would definitely qualify as statutory under sexual harassment. But since he was younger, that is so weird. I would have to ask a lawyer. So like, doctors or nurses, since they have explicit or implicit authority figures. I know there was one case sometime in the last 20 years where somebody used to be the younger party's babysitter, but they no longer were, and they were trying to get that a thing. But I don't know. It's like there are some weird technicalities in there. But yeah. So yeah, like if it's just somebody you know because you both hang out at the same bookstore, you can be 17 and your partner can be 32, and yes, that will be creepy as hell, but in Michigan it is technically legal. Yeah, like when the anti-sodomy laws still were applicable, 2 women age of consent was 19 or older. 2 men, it was 22 or older, meaning that yes, in Michigan, you could have a full unrestricted driver's license at 16. Remember, we're talking about like 2005 and earlier. I think they have the graduated driver's licenses in Michigan now. I don't know because I've never had a license, because even with this, I still have 20/80 acuity. So like borderline low vision. So yeah, in Michigan in 2005 and earlier, you could have a full unrestricted driver's license at the age of 16. You could enlist in the military, buy cigarettes and porno, and I think unrestricted access to to the legal firework, the fireworks that are legal in Michigan. Unrestricted access to fireworks, tobacco, and pornography, where you could look at a whole lot of man-on-man action. You could enlist in the military. You could do this at 18. You'll have like full medical autonomy at 18. You could, on your 21st birthday, get shit-faced drunk, and as long as you were not the one driving yourself home, perfectly legal. You could do this all before you could be a man who could legally consent to sex with another man in the state of Michigan in 2005 and earlier. So, yeah, like... yeah, you gotta love the anti-sodomy laws, right? Which do still exist in some parts of the world, just, it's no longer enforceable in the United States, and no longer enforceable. I think they've even been just outright taken off all the books in the UK by now. I don't know why the US hasn't gotten, why us last 15 holdout states haven't gotten our asses together about that. But I really should. Like, oh my gosh, it's been 3 hours. I need to, I need to go eat something. Let me see what Lucifer says. Okay, so after they get weirded out when young people try to flirt, okay, Lucifer then says that he had a classmate that was boinking the teacher. Oh, interesting. The teacher was married with a kid on the way. But the only legal issue was that being a teacher, he had authority over her. Yeah. That's like, yeah, it's like I said, like if he had not been the teacher and your friend was 16, like if this was just like, your friend's weird neighbor down the street, creepy, but technically legal. Creepy as shit. I would not want to associate with that guy, but technically legal. Yeah, I think that's considered sexual misconduct. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh wait. Lucifer then says, oh wait, think the classmate was 18 too when people found out. It was toward the end of the senior year. Okay, yeah. So if this was going on like before she turned 18, then like the fact that it was her teacher is what made that statutory under sexual misconduct, sexual harassment kind of things. But yeah, like if it was like her weird neighbor down the street or something, Michigan would have said that, yeah, it's creepy, but technically legal. I have some mixed feelings about age of consent laws just because they're derived from there's a reason that they call it statutory, and that's because it is considered such under legal statutes. So yeah, like it can indeed be otherwise consensual, like even if taking in like if we take an especially mature person of a certain age, it would be it would only be such due to legal statutes. So like I said, like take a hypothetical 15-year-old who can be determined through various neurological testing to be as neurologically developed as your average 21-year-old. Like, it's a hypothetical, so I can make most things a thing and a hypothetical. So like we can take a hypothetical 15-year-old who somehow is determined to be as neurologically developed as your average 20-year-old, right? It's possible. It is certainly within an understandable realm of reality. That doesn't seem so far off base, but and so like I said, like as neurologically developed as your average 20-year-old in this hypothetical, or even like let's just say 18. Okay, let's go with 15 versus 18. So they can be as neurologically developed as your average 18-year-old. That's a little bit less far-fetched than 20 or 21. We got to admit that. So they can be 15 as, somehow it can be determined that they're as neurologically developed as your average 18-year-old, and but still, like, because the legal statute says that, they cannot legally consent due to age, regardless of neurological development, then, it is, thus not legally recognized as consent. So, I've got a lot of very complex feelings that I'm sure if I were to get into any kind of depth onto, and I know this just because, like, I've seen people, like, try to hang me in the comments section on things because I explain how, like, considering neurological development and all of that, the whole, like, age of consent issue is very complicated. Like, it's a very complicated thing, especially when you bring neurological development into it. That, the neurological development between your average 16-year-old and your average 18-year-old is not that significant when compared, when you consider the fact that the average person does not have a fully developed prefrontal cortex, which, is associated with emotional regulation and long-term decision makings. So, like, that portion of your brain isn't fully developed until you're in the area of about 25 years old, if not significantly older due to certain kinds of neurodivergence. So yeah, like, there's this weird kind of area where, because people will defend age of consent laws and say, well, it's because of emotional development. And I'm like, if it was about emotional development, then AOC across the board would be 25, right? Like, if it was about scientifically determined neurological emotional development, AOC would be 25 as an age of consent across the board, would be 25 in the developed world. But, because we are rationally thinking people, we understand that adolescence does not work that way. Adolescence wants to, go and experiment with the way that their physical and neurological developments are adjusting. Like, adolescence is a time where people want to experiment. You want to figure out about yourself. Like, this is an age where you figure out about this is an age where you learn the most about yourself. Like, yes, prepubescence is the stage of human development where your body does the most rapid and most rapid and dramatic physical developments, right? But pubescence, which typically runs on average from about the age of 12 to neurological pubescence, ends at about the age of 25. This is also why it's not uncommon for people to have a secondary growth spurt between the ages of, like, 17 and 23, 24. Like, I shot up another couple inches between the ages of 18 and 19 and a half. And I know that because of very specific circumstances that happened, wherein I lost, like, my wallet was stolen and all of that. And, like, on my 18th birthday, you kind of have to in Michigan, because, like, even then, your even if you only have state ID, you still get a certain kind of upgrade because you're 18. Like, and I don't have that old ID anymore. Even if I did, I wouldn't be showing it on camera for a number of reasons. But yeah. So yeah, like, for a number of reasons, I know that I was 4'9" on my 18th birthday, And when I was 19 and a half and my wallet got stolen, I was 4'11". So yeah, like, and that is not an uncommon thing. That is not an uncommon thing for people to shoot up another couple of inches after their 16th or 17th birthday, but before their 25th. It's not uncommon, but people don't really realize that. So a lot of times you'll see people who are actually like a little bit taller than they think because of whatever, until, like, you know, the doctor brings up something and is just like, hey, I gotta like check your height because this doesn't seem right, because I know I'm this tall and you're somehow not in line with where this should be relative to myself. So but yeah, like, adolescence is where you do some of the most dramatic neurological development, which is why it takes so much longer than your physiological development at that age. Now, yeah, like the physiological developments, because like this is like when the puberty hormones go, you know, start releasing. That may seem dramatic, you know, like relative to prepubescence, but like when you consider that prepubescence goes from like, you know, that's considered like, you know, like toddler to about 12 years old. So like about 18 months to 12 years, like that is some dramatic physical development. But most people, when they're like 20, aside from the physical effects, aside from the way that aging will affect the face and hair color, like you kind of look like how you're going to look for the most part by the time you're in your early 20s. You know, from there, like the only you know, like the only dramatic changes are going to be due to aging, or in some cases like some kind of accident or illness that had some kind of effect on your physical appearance. But like when you're in your early 20s, you kind of, that's the age where you kind of look how you're going to look until you start showing some of the more prominent signs of aging. So yeah, like when you think about that, and you know, like that's a, you know, so like relative to prepubescence, you know, like toddler to about the age of 12, that is a lot more of a dramatic, you know, physiological growth from about the age of 12 to about the age of, let's say 22, to have about the same amount of time. The physiological developments and changes aren't quite as dramatic, right? So yeah, where was I going with this? So yeah, like a lot of the complex ideas I have about the age of consent, like I said, I could go really deep into this, maybe even like segment it up when I do that with this thing, when I go to like do the industrial rap segment that I'm gonna definitely cut up and arrange. But you know, like if I were to like do that about some of my age of consent thoughts, there are definitely going to be people who will take it in the worst possible way and try and like want to hang me for it, in which case I'd be like, that's because you're not paying attention. But would love for you to go really deep into it, but I also know. Oh yeah, that's right. Thanks for reminding me to eat, Lucifer. I did see Siska come on while I was in the middle of a thought, and I'm very sorry I didn't say hello to Siska when you came on. I'm very glad to see you. Yeah, the topic, I kind of deviated from my plan because I needed to go eat, but then I got like a thought while I was finishing up a row here before going to eat. And so basically, like, I really need to eat. Like, I need to eat, and more importantly than my own eating, I need to feed the cats, or they will conspire against me. Ah. So I'm just gonna get caught up with the chat real quick. Oh, yay. Lucifer says that the teacher who was perving on a barely legal, though technically not, due to state statutes in Michigan, because we're both in Michigan. Okay, teacher eventually got On paid leave for the rest of the year, but didn't come back the next. And there's where Siska says hello, and I responded to Siska about the topic. I forget, Siska, girl or non-binary? I feel awful for asking because like you and Lucifer, Argyle Dinosaur are like two of my longest time stream people, especially when I stream. But sometimes I'll just like forget. Megan says when you were 14, classmate at 24-year-old. Yeah, that is so as I get older, I definitely see the sense behind apparently there are people who have never heard of it. But yeah, like there's this old adage of as long as the younger partner is half your age plus 7 years. So like if you're 21, let's round up to 22, so 11 plus 7 years, that would be 18. And that is not creepy. But 21 and 14, that's like half age plus 3 years, or half age plus 2.5 years. That is creepy. So yeah, like I said, like the older I get, the more sense I see in that half age plus 7, rule of thumb that a lot of I guess a lot of older people, because I keep running into younger people who've never heard of this before. And I'm like, really? I thought everybody knew about that by the time they were like 18 or something. There's a Wikipedia article about the half age plus 7 rule. There's a legit Wikipedia article about this. I forget exactly what it's titled, but like look up like Wikipedia dating half age plus 7 rule. There's a legit Wikipedia article about this. Okay, so it is a thing. It has been like a rule of thumb in the dating world for quite some time. It is definitely older than myself. But yeah, I do see the sense in that. So for myself, like half age plus 7 would be like, we're talking like 26, 20. No, we're talking like, yeah, we're talking about like 29, 30 for half age plus 7. So, but I still like, just like because of my trans history and because I am just so eccentrically weird and because I'm neurodivergent with ADHD, meaning that, like my own emotional prefrontal cortex section didn't like, complete neurological puberty until I was at least 30. Which looking back on things, I yeah, that kind of makes sense. So, we're talking like, I ideally no younger than 25. Like 25 is kind of where I'm just like, yeah, I'm a bit more comfortable with that. But if me and the other guy get along especially well, I'll go as young as 21. Younger than 21, I want no part of that. I'll just be like, come back in a year, and then I'm comfortable with this. And like, even if I were in a country where the liquor laws allow drinking in pubs like as young as like 18, I know that's the case in the UK, which is where I plan to expatriate. I think there are other countries where it's 16 maybe, but no, like even in countries where the legal drinking age is, 18, or at least under 21, I'm just like, no. That's still like not, that's still like, no, I'm still not completely comfortable with that. Like, like 21 barest minimum, and he and I have to get along swimmingly. Ideally 25 plus. But yeah, like I can see the sense in the half age plus 7 rule at my age. Yeah, we're like, yeah, 28, 29 would be half age plus 7 for me. But oh, Lucifer says, one last thing before I go. Someone posted on Tumblr that they can imagine Eddie from from It taking Richie's glasses and asking him how he looks because he's trying to flirt with Richie, and Richie's saying, I don't know, I can't see, but I wouldn't put it past Richie to wear contacts and put his glasses on Eddie, or to buy him non-prescription lenses just to see how he looks in his glasses. I will die on this hill. Oh, Lucifer, I love your I love your It fanfic. I love it. I love it. It gives me joy, like vicariously through you. And I'm saying hello to Siska again because I'm still like getting caught up on the chat. Oh yeah, Lucifer's. Oh yeah. That's where Lucifer says that I need to eat. It's deep enough. Just woke up. Oh yeah. Okay, Siska, non-binary. Okay, so Lucifer says, heard of the half age plus 7, but friends with a lot of people that are older than me. Oh yeah. I've I used to be like amongst the, if not the youngest in my friends group. And because I'm like a long time like lifer in the goth subculture, I'm finding myself in more and more situations where I am amongst the oldest in the friends group, if not the oldest. But yeah, I gotta go eat and feed the cats, and I wish I could have stayed on topic a bit more than I did, but like I said, I kind of drifted off topic when I realized how hungry I was, and then I stuck around in spite of how hungry I am because I got distracted with shiny discussions. Oh, okay, Lucifer. Okay, one last story about your about your Ready fanfic obsession. Oh, I will take good care of myself, Siska. Even though I'm like giving myself some wiggle room right here with Lucifer's fanfic joy. Lucifer says when his aunt was when he was at his aunt's house the night before. Oh, that's right. Lucifer lost his best doggo recently. Like she was in a lot of pain, and so so it was like it really was, like just out of mercy. I believe doggo was 15 years old, named Chrissy, I think. But yeah, Lucifer recently lost his dog, and just due to old age and arthritis and pain. But okay, so before put the dog to sleep, didn't have a charger, and his cousin insisted they unlock their phones so they could find a charger. I don't know why, and your phone is ready fan art on the lock screen, on the home screen, and when it's plugged in and charging, there's ready fan art flying into the screen like photos on a table. Oh, doggo was 18 or 19, and she was nicknamed and named Christy. Okay, had her more than 15 years, which is, oh yeah. Okay, so I was close on remembering the dog's name. I thought Chrissy, but Christy, and close on doggo's age, because doggo was 18 or 19, but had doggo 15 years. So yeah, adopted a young enough adult dog. I've got a friend in Lansing who is a sucker for senior cats, at adoption events. But yeah, I've got a friend in Lansing who's a sucker for senior cats at adoption events. So like we're talking like I know pet foods say like the senior formula usually starts at like, recommended like 7 or 8 years old plus. So like we're talking like 9 or 10 years old. Like when she sees a cat who's like at an adoption event who's like 9, 10 years old or even older, Like she's just like, I have to, because like whatever got them into this situation now had to be heartbreaking, and I don't want them to like feel unstable in this kind of like adoption event kind of back and forth, right? But yeah, as always, when I sign off, take care of yourselves, including like wear all your sunscreen. I recently I guess Bear Republic is no longer doing my sparkly ass sunscreens anymore, so I got like the last of the ones I could find. This is my face stick. I can't use like liquid sunscreen on my face anymore, or at least I've decided not to, just because I sweat like a pig. I always have. Like even before HRT, I will sweat over nothing. I have sweat like at my smallest adult weight, I have still worked up a sweat like putting my laundry in the closet, right? So yeah, I'll sweat over nothing, and liquid sunscreen drips into my eyes like too easily under those circumstances. So I like to use the stick form of sunscreen for my face, like the solid face sticks, which look like a big giant chapstick, but it is solid sunscreen. And yeah, so yes, use your sunscreen. I mean, it is summer, and we don't not necessarily to keep the deathly pallor, but because you too could age like a vampire. Though in my case, it is just genetics. It is just genetics. I think I showed Lucifer photo of my my like 73-year-old aunt. There are people who think this woman is in her 50s. This woman still gets carded for the senior prices at like at the movies and stuff. Like she will get legit carded for senior prices, and the woman's in her 70s. So like she's qualified for senior discounts for at least 10 years for most places, right? She still gets carded for senior discounts. So yeah, like in my case, it's my dad's side of the family, but a little extra sunscreen never hurt anybody. And so yeah, wear your sunscreen. Otherwise, take care of yourselves and have exactly the kind of day you deserve. And I'll go off, feed my cats, feed myself, and hopefully be a little bit more topical next week, because I will plan stuff a little bit better and hopefully stick to it. All right, bats and kisses, and friend Caridi, I love you, and Achwil, and goodbye.